Chapter 9:32. I'll make sure to give at least 2 tickets a day. Definitely not less. Once I draw a new ticket, I'll give it to whoever has it. It's almost the end of the month. Let's prepare for an explosion. Crown Prince Qingshou licked his lips excitedly and stared unblinkingly at the direction of the beast tide. He had no intention of rushing over. He was the crown prince of a dynasty and had a noble status. How could he risk his life like those commoners? He could just leave the dangerous matters to his subordinates. He could just watch the show from behind. It doesn't matter who dies as long as I don't die. Kill. Let's see how you, the Demon Emperor, will defend against the Emperor's savage beast today, Crown Prince Qingshou mumbled. He became even more excited. He reached out and pulled the black-clothed woman into his arms again. Straightening his waist, he heavily penetrated her lower body. As he attacked, he watched. It was as if he wanted to vent all his excitement on the woman beneath him. What a strong pressure. Medusa felt the terrifying aura coming from behind the beast tide, and her expression changed. She quickly walked to Di Shitian's side and casually glanced down. Instantly, a large number of savage beasts turned into cold stone statues at a speed visible to the naked eye and became one with the ground. That scene was simply terrifying. Demon Emperor. I once heard from my mother that there are 9 Emperor savage beasts in the 4th level. Among the savage beasts, once they break through to become emperors, their combat strength can almost surpass their level and challenge unparalleled powerhouses. Listening to the dragon's roar, if I remember correctly, it should be the double-headed golden WRM Emperor, whose combat strength is ranked at the top among the 9 emperors. Its combat strength is extremely terrifying. It's a powerful existence that can truly contend with unparalleled powerhouses, Medusa said with an unusually solemn expression. In my opinion, it's best for us to temporarily avoid the beast tide. Otherwise, if we encounter this double-headed golden WRM Emperor, the situation will be quite bad, Medusa said after some thought. It's too late. Di Shitian stared cautiously in the direction of the dragon's roar. His expression was grave as he shook his head and said, "Rumble." Behind the beast tide, a vast ruler's aura poured out. Millions of golden lights flashed, and a golden horned dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long broke through the void. Numerous dragon scales formed a perfect hexagonal shape, densely covering every inch of his body and glowing with a noble golden divine radiance. As the dragon's body danced, the entire void trembled. The powerful aura of a savage beast swept out in all directions. His aura was extremely powerful. It was almost impossible to look at it directly. The most peculiar thing was that the flood dragon had 2 heads on its body. Both heads were golden, triangular, and extremely sharp. There were no dragon horns on its head, but its triangular dragon eyes emitted a ruthless and ominous glint. As soon as he appeared, the entire beast horde seemed to have paused for a moment. Then, they became even more ferocious. It was as if he wanted to show off his powerful combat strength in front of the double-headed flood dragon. "You killed my savage beast." The flood dragon head on the left let out a hoarse roar. "Damn you!" The flood dragon head on the right coldly spat out a sentence, but there was a hint of feminine tenderness in its voice. "Hermaphrodite." Di Shitian's pupils contracted violently. He immediately saw through the mystery of the double-headed flood dragon. The double-headed golden WRM Emperor wasn't polite at all. In their eyes, anyone who wasn't a savage beast was an enemy. There was no other way to deal with an enemy. The only way to ensure the survival of the savage beasts was to kill them. Roar! 2 overbearing dragon roars resounded in the air at the same time. The golden Jiao Emperor that was coiled up in the air shook its body. Immediately, a terrifying golden hurricane appeared in the air. This hurricane turned from formless to tangible and violently rose from the ground beside the Jiao Emperor. This hurricane was like a raging Jiao Emperor as it swept towards the Soccer Emperor. This hurricane blew past a few hundred feet high hill. The hill collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into countless fine powder that quickly drifted in all directions. It was as if it had been crushed by a giant mill. From this, one could see how terrifying its power was. This hurricane appeared in front of D. Chertion in the blink of an eye. Freeze! D. Chertion narrowed his eyes and spat out a word. This word seemed to have infinite power. Instantly, the golden hurricane that was madly sweeping towards Sakura seemed to have received some kind of mysterious order, as it faintly showed signs of stopping. He was actually directly ordering the golden hurricane to stop. Moreover, the hurricane was really frozen in midair. One could clearly see the patterns of the hurricane. However, this golden hurricane was only frozen for less than a second before it immediately broke through the invisible restriction and continued to rush towards D. Chertion. In front of the hurricane, a huge ancient seal appeared. In the ancient seal, a supreme emperor appeared. Surrounding it, the heavens rotated as if it was revolving around its will. It emitted an incomparably domineering emperor's will, wanting to crush all who provoked it into powder. The seal heavily slammed into the golden hurricane. Rumble. When the two collided, there was a terrifying metallic sound. The hurricane was filled with a terrifying destructive power. In the hurricane, the ancient seal was actually being destroyed inch by inch. With a loud bang, the hurricane and the ancient seal collapsed at the same time. This is a savage beast emperor. D. Chertion's heart became more solemn. Only he knew how powerful the ancient seal was. It contained its own emperor's will, and with the help of a peerless combat skill, the power it unleashed was close to that of a peerless expert. However, it still collapsed at the same time as the golden hurricane. This showed that the double-headed golden WRM Emperor's combat strength was shockingly strong. Just now, it was just a casual attack. I can't give it a chance. A thought flashed through D. Chertion's mind. Following that, without thinking, he quickly stepped into the void. The tiger's soul in his hand followed his momentum, and with a twist of his wrist, the tiger's soul drew a bright arc of light beside him. Endless sharpness was hidden in the blade, and with an unimaginable speed, it slashed towards the double-headed golden WRM's neck. Clang! The double-headed golden WRM's reaction was extremely fast. Just as the tiger's soul was about to slash its body, a golden dragon claw suddenly appeared in front of the blade. The dragon claw that was filled with explosive power did not evade the tiger soul's blade. Countless intense sparks shot out in all directions. What a terrifying defense. What a terrifying physical body. The sharpness of the tiger's soul was unable to break the dragon claw and flesh. Instead, in an instant, a terrifying brute force gushed out from the dragon claw. It blasted the tiger's soul away. The domineering brute force flowed along the blade and rushed into the body ferociously. In an instant, it began to destroy the flesh in the body. In the demon residence, the double refining cauldron emitted a strong devouring power. It swept the brute force that entered the body into the cauldron and quickly refined it. Kill! D. Chertion shouted coldly. He was not discouraged. With a thought, a surge of divine demon power surged into the tiger's soul. The blade moved, and 3,000 divine demons followed. In the blink of an eye, the power contained within the tiger's soul increased by 3,000 times. The golden blade became abnormally restrained. With a turn of the blade, it slashed towards the left side of the golden flood dragon emperor's head. Each slash was fatal. Within the ruthlessness, there was an endless amount of killing power. Roar! The golden flood dragon emperor's eyes shone with a ferocious light. The dragon claw under its body once again blocked in front of the tiger's soul. However, the dragon claw, which had been able to completely block the tiger's soul's sharp edge earlier, suddenly felt an intense pain. A sinister and terrifying blade mark had appeared on the dragon claw. Golden flood dragon blood continuously dripped downwards. When using the divine demon war, the power within the blade had reached a terrifying level. The power contained within was as if it could split the heavens and earth. It had actually broken through the golden flood dragon emperor's extremely powerful physical body. You can actually injure. The golden flood dragon emperor had a look of disbelief in its eyes. Its physical body was so strong that even an Earth-grade divine weapon couldn't break through it. However, it was actually cut through by this little bug that it didn't even put in its eyes. This fact made it a little stunned. However, immediately after, its eyes were filled with endless rage as it roared. "I want you dead! Husband, kill him!" The female Flood Dragon Emperor also let out an angry roar. The double-headed Golden Flood Dragon Emperor was a male and female. Rather than calling it an emperor, it was more accurate to call it the Golden Flood Dragon Emperor and Golden Flood Dragon Emperor Queen. The Golden Flood Dragon Emperor was terrifying normally, but when it was completely enraged, it was terrifying. Roar, roar, rumble. Every single golden scale on the body of the double-headed Golden Jiao Emperor stood erect as it spat out golden Jiao Qi. A terrifying shockwave erupted as it actually forced Sakura out of his body. He was forced back several hundred feet. The surrounding space violently trembled under the pressure of the Golden Flood Dragon Emperor, faintly showing signs of distorting. The vast imperial aura came crashing down, causing the surrounding beasts to involuntarily kneel on the ground, their bodies trembling violently. Millions and millions of rays of golden light burst forth from the void, completely enveloping the Golden Jiao Emperor within. Within the golden light, a strange and miraculous change appeared. The originally connected, double-headed Golden Flood Dragon Emperor suddenly separated within the golden rays, turning into two identical flood dragons. The moment the two flood dragons separated, they quickly intertwined with each other like two extremes of yin and yang, intertwining with each other, their heads intertwining with each other. It was a perfect fusion. An extremely sharp aura shot up into the sky. The way the two flood dragons intertwined with each other was like a gigantic golden scissors. Shurtian, quickly dodge. This is the double-headed Golden Flood Dragon Emperor's innate ability. Golden Flood Dragon Scissors. Once used, even the heavens can be cut in half. Almost no living creature can escape from it. Medusa's expression changed as she hurriedly shouted. However, it was already too late. A savage beast emperor that could challenge a peerless expert was completely enraged. The battle strength it erupted with had already reached an unimaginable level. The Golden Flood Dragon Emperor's Golden Flood Dragon Scissors crisscrossed together, pulling out a bright golden ray as it tyrannically cut towards D. Shurtian's waist. Gotcha! The void was cut in half by the scissors. To be continued. If you want to know the rest, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:33. The sky was sliced in half by the pair of scissors. A golden blade appeared in the air, so condensed that it was almost tangible. It didn't dissipate for a long time. D. Shurtian, who bore the brunt of the attack, was sliced in half. Demon Emperor, Your Majesty. Inside the gourd, Shui Wuya and the others' eyes were about to completely pop out. A furious expression appeared on their faces. When they saw that Sakura was actually really cut into two by a pair of scissors, the shock in their hearts was like a tide that completely drowned their minds. They saw with their own eyes that the pair of scissors sliced through his body at an unimaginable speed. The two indestructible divine rings around him only resisted for a moment before they were destroyed by the endless sharpness of the pair of scissors. The indestructible divine rings, which could withstand the full-force attack of an ancient peak heavenly demon, were as fragile as tofu in front of the pair of scissors. The pair of scissors was too domineering and sharp. When they broke through the divine rings, they cut D. Shurtian's body in half without the slightest hesitation. It was a horrifying scene. A mouthful of purplish-black blood spurted out of his mouth. D. Shurtian's eyes were filled with shock. When the pair of scissors sliced him in half, it also cut the Black Lotus in his primordial spirit in half. Endless golden brute force rushed into his body, turning into countless tiny golden scissors that crazily destroyed every inch of his flesh and blood. It was destroying the will contained in his flesh and blood. It was trying to destroy his undying body. The scissors were the scissors that cut the Black Lotus in his primordial spirit. If the Black Lotus was damaged, Di Shirtian, who had yet to form his immortal primordial spirit, would most likely suffer unimaginable injuries. Fortunately, Di Shirtian was not an ordinary demon. At the critical moment, the demon refining cauldron burst forth with dazzling light. The intertwining mysterious runes on the cauldron appeared clearly, protecting the 11th tier Black Lotus in the cauldron. Clang! The pair of scissors collided violently with the demon refining cauldron. Suddenly, a vast, majestic aura burst out from the cauldron, like the membrane of heaven and earth. It was not as good as blasphemy. No sharpness could break into the cauldron. On the other hand, the demon refining cauldron continued to spin. With every revolution, the sharpness of the golden flood dragon scissors would be ground away. However, the Tao patterns on the cauldron dimmed slightly. It seemed to cause the demon refining cauldron to lose a lot of its primordial chi. When the golden flood dragon scissors were completely destroyed, the demon refining cauldron's light dimmed. There was no sign of life on the cauldron. It was like a piece of rotten wood that had suffered a huge blow. Good, 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 very good. As expected of an emperor of savage beasts. However, this is far from enough to kill me. So what if you cut my physical body apart? As long as my will is not broken, my demonic body will never die. Now let's see what I can do. Di Shirtian could feel the countless tiny golden jiao scissors crazily destroying his demonic body. His heart was instantly filled with boundless rage as he coldly spoke. Boom, boom, boom. The void outside his body shook violently. The immortal body was quickly activated. Inside his body, every inch of his flesh and blood was bursting with a shocking amount of power. In the blink of an eye, the 6 immortal divine rings that had been destroyed were regenerated. Moreover, after being destroyed, they were regenerated. The power of the divine rings was vaguely stronger. Their defensive power was even more tyrannical. Although it consumed a large amount of flesh and blood essence, the moment the immortal divine rings were formed, they began to rapidly rotate from his feet and grind his flesh and blood. Although it was painful to cultivate the immortal emperor body, and it was an extreme refinement of the body, every time it was activated, it was a cleansing of the body. Not only could it expel the impurities in the body, but could also refine the body to become more tenacious and powerful. This was the true top-level body refining technique. With the activation of the immortal body, wherever the divine rings appeared, the tiny golden jiao scissors in his body were instantly crushed into powder. They turned into strands of power that were forcefully integrated into his flesh and blood. They were irresistibly crushed into powder. A vast amount of essence, chi, burst out from his demonic body. Oomph! Di Shirtian suddenly raised his head and glanced at the back of the beast tide. Between his brows, there was a cold expression. He snorted coldly. The 2 halves of his body that had been cut into 2 were not reconnected. Boom, 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 boom. The lower half of his body swelled violently and suddenly became 1,000 feet long. As if it had a mind of its own, it took large strides towards the back of the beast tide. Every step was as heavy as a mountain. The space under his feet shook violently, and terrifying ripples appeared in the air. With a strange aura, he stepped into the air and left. Roar! The double-headed golden jiao emperor transformed into 2 golden jiao dragons, 1 male and 1 female. They intersected and joined together to form a terrifying pair of golden jiao scissors. Seeing that the lower half of the sakura was about to run away, a terrifying dragon roar was suddenly heard. The golden light that it emitted became even more resplendent. It swayed its body, as if it was about to cut the lower half of the sakura's body again. Your opponent is I. Di Shirtian let out a cold shout without any anger. Looking at the golden jiao emperor, the anger in his heart surged like a tidal wave. Although he already knew that savage beast emperors had heaven-defying battle prowess, he never thought that this golden jiao emperor would have the terrifying ability to transform into the golden jiao scissors. Not only was its body cut into two, even the demon refining cauldron was heavily damaged. The anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. Heavenly punishment divine eye open. In between his brows, the purple gold vertical line suddenly burst forth with a dazzling divine light. Every time it flashed, a vast pressure would be emitted from it. The purple line opened to both sides. In the blink of an eye, a purple gold, emotionless eye fell on the golden Jiao Emperor. At the same time, a purple gold divine light shot out from the divine eye, covering the golden Jiao Emperor with lightning speed. Roar! The golden Jiao Emperor instinctively felt an irresistible aura of death from the divine light. Its eyes flashed with madness, and it opened its mouth to let out a dragon roar. Around it, countless golden tornadoes whizzed towards the divine light, as if they wanted to blow it into smithereens. Droplets of golden rain fell from the sky and landed on the ground, piercing holes of unknown depth in the ground. This rain wasn't simple either. It was golden essence water. The rain gathered together to form a huge golden water screen, blocking the divine light. The golden Jiao Emperor formed a pair of scissors, waiting for the divine light to block it so that it could rush out and cut Di Shirtian into pieces. Bang, bang, bang. However, it was too early for it to think of that. In front of the divine light, the hurricanes dissipated one after another. Even the water curtain formed by the golden essence water was destroyed on the spot. After being destroyed, the divine light landed on the golden Jiao Emperor's body without hesitation. Roar! Within the divine light, a snow-white ancient mirror suddenly appeared. In the ancient mirror, scenes of slaughter appeared. The main character of the slaughter was the golden Jiao Emperor. The targets of its slaughter were countless savage beasts and cultivators. The scenes in the mirror were the history of the golden Jiao Emperor's bloodshed since its birth. The number of living beings that died under its claws was innumerable. It was difficult to count them all. What is this? The golden Jiao Emperor let out a different roar, as if it was terrified. After all, anyone who saw their own life's growth would feel a sense of bewilderment and uncertainty. Roar, roar, roar. But immediately, all the beasts and cultivators that were killed by the golden flood dragon flew out from the ancient mirror and charged at the golden flood dragon emperor with ferocious expressions. In an instant, they turned into streaks of blood-red flames that wrapped around the golden Jiao Emperor's body. The golden Jiao Emperor let out a terrifying cry. Within the countless streaks of blood-red flames, its body was fine, but its soul was suffering unimaginable pain. Immediately, it let out a terrifying roar. The dragon scales on its body stood up, and countless golden lights flashed, trying to stop the flames from burning it. But the effect was weak. Heavenly punishment divine, mirror of sin. This heaven-defying ability was extremely terrifying. Once it landed on the body, it would immediately trigger the boundless evil energy in the body and turn it into endless red lotus fire, burning the soul. For those with great evil energy, their soul would be burned to ashes. The heavenly punishment divine gave birth to 4 innate divine seals, raising its power to the level of a top-tier innate spiritual treasure. Its power was so strong that even the golden Jiao Emperor could not withstand it. The golden Jiao Emperor screamed in agony. However, after using this ability, Di Shirtian's face turned pale. Using the heavenly punishment divine, now was too much of a burden on him. TSK, fight. Fight with all your might. The golden Jiao Emperor is indeed powerful. It actually cut the demonic emperor in two. But where did the lower half go? Crown Prince Chengshou clicked his tongue and looked at Di Shirtian with only the upper half of his body left. He was very excited. However, he was crazily attacking the woman below him and was distracted for a moment. He did not see how the lower half of his body disappeared. Boom, boom, boom. However, just as he finished speaking, the void twisted and the upper half of the body suddenly appeared in front of him. It appeared in front of the mountain peak where he was standing. Its huge feet stepped in the void and made a terrifying rumbling sound. A fierce and majestic pressure and anger rolled towards him like a tide. So it was you who schemed against I and attracted the beast tide. How dare you? Who gave you the guts? Sakura's intimidating, questioning, and berating voice came from the half-ruined body. It was as if he was questioning a traitor. Demonic Emperor, it's you. You actually found your way here. Crown Prince Qingshou was startled by Di Shirtian's sudden appearance. However, when he saw that it was only a broken body, a sinister smile appeared on his face, and he pulled the lower half of his body out of the woman's body. He grabbed a robe and said coldly, "Good, good, good. If you weren't injured, I would be a bit afraid of you. Now you only have half of your body, and you want to be fierce in front of me? Today, I'll shatter your body and collect some interest for the 1,000 Beasts sect you destroyed." To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:34. Those who have recommendation votes, please vote. He had seen the scene of Sakura forcefully resisting the beast tide. Although he didn't want to admit it, but he also knew that if he was in a different place, he would probably be torn into countless pieces on the spot by those wild beasts that had lost their minds and completely gone berserk. Not even dregs will be left behind. He knew that if it was under normal circumstances, he would absolutely not be Sakura's match. Although he was also an ancient giant, he was good at scheming and scheming behind the scenes. He was vicious and vicious. He had not condensed his own will, so he did not dare to fight against Di Shirtian, who had risen from countless killings. If it had been any other time, he would have run away without saying a word. He was a typical bully who was afraid of the strong. He acted one way in front of others and another way behind others. However, when he saw that only half of Di Shirtian's body appeared in front of him, he rolled his eyes and narrowed them into a line, emitting a cold light. With an incomplete body, his strength would be greatly reduced. Moreover, after a long battle, he would be even weaker. Take advantage of his weakness to kill him. In his mind, a crazy thought flashed by. He actually wanted to kill this part of the Sakura's body. 1,000 Beasts sect? Crown Prince of the 1,000 Beasts Empire? Di Shirtian's voice became unusually cold. He emitted a terrifying, murderous intent. I have not settled the score with you, but you actually want to plot against me behind my back. If I don't kill you today, I will find a heavenly pillar and smash my head against it. He was angry when he heard that Crown Prince Qingshou was the Crown Prince of the Wanshou Imperial Dynasty. Di Shirtian's murderous intent exploded out. In this world, the thing he hated the most was the 10,000 Beast sect and the Wanshou Imperial Dynasty. This hatred came directly from his flesh and blood. It was a hatred that could not be washed away. If it was not for the fact that he could not use the supreme divine weapon of the 1,000 Beast City unless he had no other choice, he would have charged into the 1,000 Beast realm when he returned to the purple gold mainland and destroyed the entire 1,000 Beast realm. Now that he knew Di Shirtian's identity, the hatred hidden deep in his flesh and blood was instantly ignited. Kill! A tragic cry of murder erupted from within the remains of the body. Rumble! As soon as the killing sound was heard, the surrounding void seemed to be affected. In the sky above, a huge blood cloud condensed out of thin air, covering every inch of the surrounding area. The word kill seemed to condense into a bloody killing sword that pierced into Crown Prince Qingshou's mind. Crown Prince Qingshou felt a terrible pain in his head, as if it was about to explode. His entire mind felt like it was about to be sliced apart by the killing sword. In an instant, his expression changed. It was as if he wasn't facing a ruined body at all, but a supreme emperor that was issuing an order to conquer the world. He was as insignificant as a small boat that could easily be destroyed in front of his killing intent. Damn you! After saying those words coldly, the body immediately moved. Crown Prince, run! The power contained in this broken body was extremely terrifying. The two of us can hold them off for now. Just when Sakura was about to make a move, 2 escape lights broke through the sky from afar. When the light dissipated, the two imperial beast elders who had ignited their beast soul seeds appeared. Each of them was holding a strange pitch-black banner in their hands. In the banner, black clouds billowed, and there were countless souls wailing inside. There were beast souls and human souls. Each and every one of their faces seemed to be in extreme pain. This was a 10,000 soul banner. The power of the 10,000 soul banner grew stronger as the number of souls increased. The most amazing thing was that the power of the 10,000 soul banner could condense a fighting soul. Its strength was divided into Fighting Soul King, Fighting Soul King, and Fighting Soul Emperor. A Fighting Soul King alone could rival an ancient giant, and a Fighting Soul Emperor could rival a peerless expert. Once it was completed, it would have a powerful helper. Looking at the two 10,000 soul banners, there was a huge ancient fighting soul standing on the banner. Around it, countless souls surrounded it. Wisps of soul power were constantly extracted from their bodies and drilled into the fighting soul's body. From time to time, the souls would collapse due to the exhaustion of their power and turn into ashes. On the war soul's body, muscles that looked like horned dragons appeared under its bronze skin. It was full of the domineering aura of an emperor. Two strange black horns grew on its head, as if it was not a fighting soul, but a terrifying demon god. Rumble. The two 10,000 soul banners shook violently, and the bodies of two fighting soul emperors, each thousands of feet tall, were completely revealed. Each of them held a pitch-black chain in their hands. With a swing of the chain, they bound D. Shirtian's legs. Crash! The chain was firmly bound to his thighs. You're courting death. D. Shirtian's body suddenly burst forth with two immortal divine rings. Suddenly, the entire world was filled with a terrifying sense of sorrow. Rain fell from the sky, and Crown Prince Qingshou only felt drops of tears appear in his eyes. What's going on? How can I cry? D. Shirtian, what did you do to me? Crown Prince Qingshou's face was full of shock and confusion. There was also a faint trace of fear. Crack! D. Shirtian did not have the slightest desire to explain to him. He only wanted to do one thing now, and that was to kill him. A purple gold royal true force burst forth from his feet and collided with the iron chain. Instantly, the iron chain cracked at a speed visible to the naked eye and broke apart on the spot. How domineering was the imperial true force! It was almost the peak of the Emperor's Tao. Rumble! He lifted his foot and stomped heavily on the two fighting souls. The scene of mountains and rivers appeared under his foot, and the scene of stars appeared under his other foot. He directly used the Imperial Heaven battling steps. Every step he took contained a supreme will. On the spot, the two fighting souls were destroyed. Their entire bodies instantly collapsed. They turned into countless remnant souls. They returned to the 10,000 soul banner. Everyone from the 10,000 beast Imperial dynasty deserves to die. D. Shirtian's heart was cold and emotionless. Even without a body, just relying on his legs, he still had monstrous battle strength. Will. There was a fundamental difference between condensed will and not condensed will. Each and every move contained an irreversible will. There was no sign of stopping under his feet at all. With boundless ferocity and boundless pressure, he stepped step by step toward the two Imperial Beast Elders and Crown Prince Qingshou. The Imperial Heaven battling steps was executed to the extreme. Collapse of mountains and rivers with one step. Step of the stars. Third step of the sun and moon. Fourth step of the 8 desolates. With one step, there was no space to dodge at all. They could only watch as the huge foot covered the sky stepped on their heads. The eldest Imperial Beast Elder's head was stepped on, and the power of mountains and rivers poured down. His head exploded like a watermelon, and his body was destroyed, turning into mush. The second Imperial Beast Elder was crushed by the power of the stars. It was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, crushing the two ancient giants in a mush. No, you can't kill me. I am the crown prince of the 10,000 Beast Imperial dynasty, and my father is the 10,000 Beast Emperor. If I die, my father will definitely not forgive you. He will definitely file your bones and scatter your ashes. Looking at the giant foot that covered the sky descending from above, the scene of mountains and rivers appeared under the foot, covering the sky and splitting the sun, making it impossible for people to dodge. A beast armor made of countless beast souls appeared on his body, covering his entire body. An ancient seal turned upside down and flew towards the big foot imprint above his head. Countless figures of birds and beasts appeared on the ancient seal. It emitted a boundless beast energy. There seemed to be a beast god brewing inside. The moment the ancient seal appeared, countless beast souls followed. There was a strange phenomenon. It seemed like there was a beast region following outside the ancient seal. Oomph. You don't know what you're talking about. Do you think that if I let you go, your 10,000 beast imperial dynasty won't scheme against me? Your 10,000 beast imperial dynasty, and I cannot live under the same sky. Let you live? Is there something wrong with your brain, or am I a fool? Only you can scheme against me, but I can't kill you. In this world, the strong are respected. I am strong, so I will kill you. This is the logic. Deshertion laughed coldly. Letting him go was a joke. The scene of the 8 desolates appeared under his foot. There were mountains and rivers, a sun, a moon, and stars. It was as if the first 3 steps had merged into one. This step was even more terrifying. Under his feet, the ancient seal was stomped on and shattered on the spot. Rumble. The mountain under his foot shook violently, and it instantly shrank by several hundred feet. In the huge foot, 3 lumps of flesh seemed to be alive, wriggling continuously as if they were trying to reform their bodies. However, they did not succeed. 3 immortal primordial spirits, which were the size of the main body, quickly emerged from the flesh. They looked around and were about to flee. However, 2 purple gold-colored divine rings instantly enveloped the 3 immortal primordial spirits. They were absorbed into the divine rings and bound by the immortal primordial spirits. Their consciousness became muddled. As for the woman in black, she was completely turned into ashes during the battle. Boom, boom. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it only took a few breaths of time. Crown Prince Chengshou, who was hiding in the back, was wiped out. The Golden Flood Dragon Emperor was enveloped in blood-red flames. These flames intertwined and formed a huge red lotus. This was the true red lotus karmic fire. Crack! The lower half of his body returned from afar, and his upper and lower halves merged together. Immediately, the 3 immortal primordial spirits trapped in the immortal divine rings and the countless souls in the 2 10,000 soul banners were sent directly into the nether prison. Ha, good, good, good. There are so many souls in the banners. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions. This time, there is something to do in the nether prison. The nether prison is finally not empty anymore. There are 3 immortal primordial spirits. Haha, let's see how I deal with them. When Nether saw the immortal primordial spirits and the 10,000 soul banners enter the nether prison, he immediately became excited. He tore open the 10,000 soul banners and released the countless souls inside. The originally empty nether prison suddenly became unusually lively. A large group of prison guards quickly moved around. First, interrogate that Crown Prince Chengshou. I want to know everything about the Wanshou Imperial Dynasty, Deshertion ordered coldly. This kind of person can cultivate to the level of an immortal primordial spirit. He only knows how to play tricks and is not presentable. After Nether interrogated Crown Prince Chengshou, he spat disdainfully. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:35. Crown Prince Chengshou had never formed a will of his own. He was of noble birth and had been a proud son of heaven since birth. He had never been harmed in any way. As for the interrogation of Underworld, he looked at the terrifying punishments in the Underworld prison. Mountains ablaze, seas of fire, cauldrons of oil, tongues pulled out, and roasting. Just one look was enough to make him shiver. He was thrown onto the karma mirror and looked it in front of it. Instantly, everything he had done since he was born appeared in the ancient mirror. It was like a vast history of his growth. However, in Crown Prince Chengshou's life, all he could see was cowardice and despicableness. He only knew how to scheme and scheme. He was always scheming behind the scenes and never charged at the front. All kinds of schemes were endless. He could be said to be a living history of the underworld. As expected, he's something unpresentable. Di Shirtian quickly scanned the karma mirror and saw Crown Prince Chengshou's life. He snorted. It's the 10 great celestial sects behind this again. They revealed my whereabouts to Crown Prince Chengshou and used the hatred between me and the Wanshou imperial dynasty to delay me. If I kill Crown Prince Chengshou, the hatred between me and the Wanshou imperial dynasty will become even deeper. The Great Void Temple, Sky Sword Valley, Myriad Demon's Palace, Kind Boathouse, Heaven's Secret Sect, and Dabii Temple. They really think highly of me. However, Crown Prince Chengshou still has some value. The Beast Soul Attraction can actually attract thousands of savage beasts. He immediately obtained a lot of secret information from Crown Prince Chengshou's memories. Not only did he know the reason for the savage beast's rampage, but he also found out the mastermind behind this attack. These 10 great immortal sects are truly detestable. They actually appear everywhere I go, and they've even schemed so ruthlessly against you this time. Looks like the 4 great immortal sects established their sects within Skysplit Pagoda all those years ago for an extraordinary objective. Ming cried out loudly while her narrow dragon eyes were suffused with an oppressive and fierce glow. Roar! The Golden Flood Dragon Emperor's body was engulfed by the Red Lotus karmic fire, and it let out a painful howl. However, the Red Lotus karmic fire did not burn it to death. For triangular eyes shot out a look of anger and fear. Glaring fiercely at Sakura Shirtian, it swung its tail, and its entire body turned into a stream of golden light, suddenly fleeing towards the south in a frenzy. Roar! The last dragon's roar seemed to have given some kind of order to the beast horde below. Immediately, the eyes of the savage beasts glowed with blood-red light. One by one, they became extremely huge and launched an even more frenzied attack on Blood Hangman and Di Shirtian. Rumble! One by one, the savage beasts charged in front of the Bloodstrike guards without any regard for their own safety. Their bodies suddenly exploded, erupting with a destructive force. Under such a destructive force, hideous and terrifying cracks appeared on the Bloodstrike guards despite their tough bodies. What a cunning Golden Flood Dragon Emperor! Di Shirtian took a deep look at the south and instructed Dark in his mind. Immediately organize the souls in the 10,000 soul banner into a book and send them to the karma mirror. Those who have committed grave sins are immediately sent to the 19 levels of hell to be punished by hell. Interrogate them for all information and cultivation techniques. Then, send them to the Saint Spirit altar to be refined into the Lust Saint Spirit. Those who have committed grave sins are sent to the Wheel of Reincarnation. Absorb all the soul's power and cleanse the true spirit mark. Send them to the hell pool to be transformed into hell prison jailers. In one sentence, he completely set the tone. Don't worry. With me here, everything will be fine. Dark licked his lips and looked excitedly at the large number of souls that continuously emerged from the 10,000 soul banner. This was simply a huge feast. 7 sins. Looking at the savage beasts that had almost fallen into a frenzy, Di Shirtian's face revealed a cold expression. With a soft shout, the 7 sins demonic zither that had been nourishing in the demon mansion immediately turned into a black stream of light and appeared in front of him. With another wave of his hand, the Lingshao throne appeared behind him. He sat upright on the throne. 7 sins floated in the air. Looking at the 7 sins, the entire body of the zither was filled with countless pitch-black power that turned into black threads and intertwined on the body of the zither, forming many tracks. 4 spiritual pearls of different colors were perfectly embedded in the body of the zither. They were the gold spiritual pearl, wood spiritual pearl, earth spiritual pearl, and wind spiritual pearl. The four origin powers filled the zither and condensed on the four strings. On the zither, ancient and obscure Taoist rhymes flowed. Its grade had reached the ranks of supreme-grade Dharma treasures. Moreover, under the abundant power, it had almost reached the peak of Dharma treasures. It could break through to become an acquired spiritual treasure at any time and become a rare treasure. His eyes fell on the zither, and he nodded slightly. His slender fingers seemed to be placed casually on the zither strings. His 10 fingers were like hooks as he pinched a khaki string. Between his fingers, there was a vast amount of Huangji true force. On the 7 sins, each string had a different weight. For example, this khaki string was filled with endless earth origin power and was extremely heavy. To pluck it, one needed to use heavy fingers. He plucked the zither string heavily. Clang! The sound of the zither suddenly rang out. The instant the zither music rang out, the boundless will of massacre contained in it spread out like a tide, covering the entire battlefield. It suppressed the ferocious roars of the savage beasts and their murderous cries without any warning. The savage beasts that were originally in a frenzy could not help but pause. Immediately, wave-shaped ripples suddenly appeared on the ground, one after another, emitting a terrifying roar. On the spot, countless savage beasts fell to the ground. Their flesh and blood were disintegrated by the tremors of the ground. Khaki earth dragons rushed out from the ground and pounced on the savage beasts. Clang, clang, clang. Then, 3 more sounds of the zither filled with killing intent rang out. They poured into the ears. In the void, countless terrifying storms emerged out of thin air. These storms gathered together to form ferocious tornadoes. Within the tornadoes, there were countless sharp wind blades revolving. Anything that got sucked into the tornadoes would be instantly turned into dust by the terrifying wind blades. A large number of savage beasts could not even react and were sucked into the tornado. Countless screams were heard as the tornado turned blood red. On the ground, countless weeds and vines grew at an unimaginable speed. Sharp saw teeth grew out and curled towards the savage beasts with strong physical bodies. They were strangling the savage beasts to death and cutting countless wounds on their bodies. Countless sound waves condensed into golden crescent-shaped blades. Each blade seemed to be solid as it slashed towards the surrounding savage beasts. Wherever he passed, countless severed limbs fell to the ground. He did not play a complete song at all. Just 4 cold and sonorous murderous sounds, mixed with the origin power of the 7 sins, killed tens of millions of savage beasts in the beast tide on the spot. That terrifying destructive power. It was almost like the end of the world. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. Roar! The power of the beast soul attraction in the remaining savage beasts began to dissipate. They looked at Di Shirtian, who was sitting on the throne in the void, and then looked at the countless pieces of flesh around them. Their faces were filled with fear. Although savage beasts had low intelligence, fear was also a kind of instinct. Especially after the departure of the Golden Dragon Emperor, they could not hold on any longer. After a roar, a savage beast went crazy and burrowed into the forest behind it. It was as if this was a signal that caused the entire stampede of savage beasts to crumble. Countless savage beasts scattered in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the beast horde that was as vast as the ocean had dissipated. On the ground, countless savage beasts' broken bodies covered the ground. The blood of the savage beasts dyed the ground red. Jailers, listen to my order. Extract the beast souls. Di Shirtian glanced around. He bellowed. A vast nether prison appeared in the void. It was unusually illusory, as if it was some kind of mysterious projection. Inside, one could vaguely see the 19 layers of Hell Prison. Jailers in purple armor walked out of the Hell Prison with cold expressions. They held soul-retrieving chains in their hands and swung them at the broken bodies. It was as if they were whipping the air. However, when they were pulled back, one could see that the savage beast souls were bound by the chains. They were quickly imprisoned in the Hell Prison. Tens of millions of beast souls were quickly absorbed into the Hell Prison. The true spirit imprints in these beast souls were extremely strong and stable. They were the best targets to form jailers. Unfortunately, the true spirit imprints in these beast souls were not strong. They were not good targets to nurture holy spirits. Perhaps one holy spirit could not be nurtured out of 1,000,000 beast souls. Clang! The tiger's soul, which was thousands of feet long, suddenly turned and stabbed heavily into the battlefield. The strange green bead on the tiger's soul shone with a faint light. The blood on the battlefield seemed to have a life of its own. It wriggled strangely and gathered toward the tiger's soul. Once it touched the tiger's soul, it was immediately swallowed into the blade. A strange blood-red halo appeared in the green bead. A large amount of flesh and blood turned into blood at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, only white bones were left. At the edge of the battlefield, on the ground that was originally dyed red, there was no trace of blood. All of them were devoured by the tiger soul without missing a single one. The vast essence contained in the flesh and blood of tens of millions of savage beasts was comparable to the ferocious beasts in the land of exile. A blood-red vortex formed at the edge of the tiger's soul. Endless blood seeped into the tiger's soul. He could clearly see that the green pearl was undergoing a significant change with every breath that passed. The green bead turned into a blood-red bead at an astonishing speed. Roar! In the air above the blade, a golden battle tiger appeared. It was extremely domineering. It opened its mouth and swallowed. A large amount of blood was swallowed into its stomach. The green bead had completely transformed into a blood-red bead. The power contained in the tiger soul seemed to have reached a peak in an instant. It was the peak of middle-grade Earth rank. The battlefield was littered with broken skeletons. Chapter 9:36. Brothers, please support those who have tickets. Each of these beast bones is extremely powerful. Savage beasts spend their whole lives refining their bodies, and their bones are tough. They're the best materials to refine magic weapons and magic treasures. They are the most coveted materials of bone craftsmen. If we collect tens of millions of them, it will be enough to make the auction in Demon City, which is about to be completed, more attractive. We don't have to worry about not having enough auction items. If we give them to the craftsmen in our clan to refine, they should be able to improve their craftsmanship quickly. Tion looked at the countless bones scattered on the battlefield. For a moment, his face lit up. These are all good stuff. Not only were there bones, there were also some precious materials from savage beasts. For example, the horns on the head of a bull-type savage beast, the scales on the body of a scale-type savage beast, the sharp fangs, and the tendons of a tough beast were all precious materials. Immediately, teams of blood-kill guards quickly spread out on the battlefield, collected the tough bones one by one, and sent them to Tion. Then, they were directly stored in his inner world. In the inner world, there were also many alchemists, weapon refiners, and demon soldiers. At this moment, when they saw the countless skeletons being sent in, they excitedly arranged the skeletons according to their categories and placed them into special jade boxes. What a terrifying beast tide! Looking at the 30,000 blood-kill guards, there were no less than 10,000 of them left. Their entire bodies were destroyed in the beast tide, leaving only the soldier souls in their bodies. They were stored in the underworld prison and secretly recuperated with the help of the soul power inside. Even those that remained had hideous and terrifying cracks all over their bodies. Tion could not help but secretly take a deep breath. A trace of fear emerged in his mind. Fortunately, this beast tide was not a real beast tide. It was only forcibly triggered by the beast soul attraction. It was only equivalent to 1/10 of the power of a real beast tide. If it was a real beast tide, there would not only be one golden flood dragon emperor, but at least 3 savage beast emperors. At most, there would be 9 savage beast emperors. That kind of beast tide was overwhelming. Its destructive power was so strong that even a real, unparalleled expert could not resist it. If they really faced it, Given the situation just now, the 30,000 blood-kill guards would have died here. Those who could escape were few and far between. Tion, what should we do now? Medusa returned to Tian's side, and the way she looked at him was completely different. Tian's battle prowess had almost completely overturned her understanding of ancient heavenly fae. This was especially so for the final sound of slaughter. Just by plucking the strings a few times, the origin energy of the heavens and earth was instantly activated, and tens of millions of savage beasts were killed. This method was terrifying. She couldn't help but look at the 7 sins demonic zither that was still floating in the air. She had personally seen the 7 sins demonic zither being refined in the southern barbarian lands. Back then, she couldn't have imagined it. A life-bound demon weapon could actually transform to such a powerful state. Crack! A light flashed in Tian's hand, and a jade box appeared. He opened the jade box. In the jade box, there were 5 spirit pearls: the earth spirit pearl, the fire spirit pearl, the water spirit pearl, and the small chaos spirit pearl. He carefully took out the fire spirit pearl from the jade box and carefully inserted the fire spirit pearl into the 5th groove on the 7 sins demonic zither. With a soft sound, the fire spirit pearl and the groove perfectly fit together. In an instant, there was a burst of bright red light, and it merged with the ancient zither. Not long after, the fire spirit pearl had completely merged with the ancient zither. Traces of the origin of fire merged into the body of the ancient zither, constantly increasing the power of the ancient zither. Beside the spirit pearl, the originally snow-white strings also transformed into a red color in an instant. In the strings, there was a vast origin of fire. The power of desire in the zither was constantly merging into the ancient zither. Swish! The 7 sins returned to the demon mansion. Once the power of desire in the zither was completely merged into the ancient zither, the 7 sins would be completely promoted to an inferior grade acquired spiritual treasure. In other words, an inferior grade treasure. It really had extremely terrifying power. The 10 great immortal sects have schemed against me time and time again. It would be impolite not to reciprocate. Since they want to play, then I will play a big game with them. Medusa, are there any fatal dangers on our way to the Peng mystic realm? Tian's eyes became a little deep. The 10 great immortal sects? The continuous scheming had already caused a strong sense of disgust to grow in his heart. Back at the illusionary island, he had witnessed the appearance of the Tianji sect with his own eyes. Now, they wanted to use the savage beast tide to seriously injure or even kill him. This was simply touching his bottom line, especially the purpose of this trip, which was the Peng mystic realm and the demon summoning banner inside. There could not be any mishaps with these two. He was almost certain that the 10 great immortal sects must have secretly dispatched experts to chase after him. Since you dare to scheme against me at this time, then don't blame me for teaching you a painful lesson. Originally, I had things to do and did not have time to deal with you. Since you came to me, if I don't teach you a lesson, you will not know how to write the word fear. A dangerous glint flashed in Tian's eyes. The 4 directions heavenly gates, the demon suppression valley, the demon summoning banner, one thing after another pressured him, and he had no choice but to go personally. He had to raise the strength of the 1,000 demon city and the entire demon race by a large step in the shortest time possible. In his heart, he did not want to provoke other forces for the time being and peacefully developed his forces in the dark. When necessary, he would amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, intimidate everyone. However, it seemed that some people seemed to think that he was weak after continuously giving in. Time and time again, it was like a worm in a tarsal bone, hiding in the dark and constantly scheming. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I will give you a ruthless one. In an instant, countless killing intent surged in Tian's heart. If you can't avoid it, then I will beat you to death. There is a canyon in the middle of the way called the Death Canyon. After hearing Tian's words, Medusa's heart became clear. She immediately figured out that he was going to kill the experts of the 10 great immortal sects and set an ambush. Counterattack. She rolled her eyes and immediately thought of a place. She said, "There's a strange wind of death in the Death Canyon all year round. When it scrapes the body, it can scrape away and devour the life essence. Moreover, the deeper you go in, the more terrifying the wind of death is. After entering, it is extremely difficult to even find the direction in the strange wind. Once the exit is blocked, it can immediately turn the canyon into a place of death. It is a good place to set an ambush." The Death Canyon was in a remote area in the east. It was extremely hidden, and even savage beasts would not gather around it. Only a few cultivators really knew about it. Usually, once one entered, 9 out of 10 cultivators would die inside. Therefore, this place was not well known. Okay, let's go to the Death Canyon immediately. Tion took a deep breath and made up his mind without hesitation. Immediately, the remaining 20,000 Bloodkill guards regrouped. The cracks on some of the Bloodkill guards healed quickly under the nourishment of the murderous aura in the air. It wouldn't take long for them to heal completely. Once they recovered, not only would their combat strength not weaken, but they might even become stronger. Rumble. The group was extremely fast. They immediately regrouped and rushed towards the direction of the Death Canyon. This time, they didn't take their time on the journey. Instead, they directly flew through the air in escape lights. Tion sat on the throne and let Medusa and Byzantine sit on either side. He did not move at all. His eyes were closed at some point. His mind was immersed in his body. This time, he barely managed to resist the savage beasts. However, after facing the beast tide and fighting with the Golden Flood Dragon Emperor, his body also suffered great injuries. In his monster body, a large amount of flesh was damaged. Furthermore, the Golden Flood Dragon Scissors had destroyed a large amount of the will contained in the flesh. For this, he had to refine the damaged flesh and grow new ones. He also had to reintegrate his will into every inch of his flesh. Otherwise, it would have a certain impact on his combat strength. If his monster body was destroyed, the remaining flesh would not have the ability to regenerate from a drop of blood. These injuries are not a big deal. With the power of the Imperial Indestructible Body, I only need to circulate it a few times to refine my body. However, the real damage is my Demon Refining Cauldron. Tion thought to himself. A trace of heartache flashed across his heart. He quickly looked towards the demon abode. He saw that the demon abode was vast and incomparably huge. It had already become a vast purple-gold world. Inside, an endless amount of desire energy was continuously pouring into the demon abode from the inner world. It constantly floated in the demon abode. In the center of the demon abode, a crystal-clear jade cauldron suppressed the surroundings. It was the Demon Refining Cauldron. On the surface of the cauldron, mysterious cauldron runes were branded. These cauldron runes were all naturally formed. It seemed that every time his strength increased, as the demon abode expanded, the number of cauldron runes on the cauldron also increased mysteriously. Every additional rune greatly increased the power of the Demon Refining Cauldron. At this moment, there were already 63 cauldron runes on the cauldron. Normally, the cauldron runes would be abnormally round, as if they were alive. The Demon Refining Cauldron's speed would be extremely fast. But now, the entire Demon Refining Cauldron seemed abnormally dim, and the cauldron runes on it were dim. The Demon Refining Cauldron began to rotate. Compared to usual, it was no less than 10 times weaker. Using blood essence as a guide, nourished the jade cauldron. When Tion saw this, he felt a pang of heartache. This Demon Refining Cauldron was one of his greatest foundations. If it were to be damaged, it might shake his foundation. Without even thinking, he shouted in his heart. In his heart, streams of purple gold blood essence flowed. It instantly seeped into the demon abode and turned into a trickling blood spring. It gushed down and rushed towards the Demon Refining Cauldron. As soon as it touched the cauldron, the blood essence that contained a huge amount of vitality was easily swallowed by the jade cauldron as if it had touched a sponge, turning into wisps of blood. Ding! With the help of the blood essence, The originally dim cauldron emitted a faint divine glow and began to recover. It began to wantonly devour the blood essence. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:37. Kacha. His closed eyes suddenly opened, and he quickly opened a jade box in his hand. Abundant life essence seeped out of the jade box. 10 source of life of different sizes immediately appeared before his eyes. He reached out and grabbed one of them, opening his mouth and swallowing it. Boom! Once the source of life entered his body, a vast amount of life essence immediately drilled into every inch of his flesh like a tide. It transformed into a jade-green dragon and drilled into the purple-gold heart. Thump, thump, thump. The purple-gold light that had dimmed due to the large amount of blood essence immediately shone with a shocking divine radiance. The beating of the heart became even clearer and stronger. With every beat, a large amount of blood essence drilled into the demon palace and into the demon refining cauldron, nourishing the damaged demon refining cauldron. Outside his body, the 6 undying divine rings quickly crushed his body from bottom to top, washing away the impurities in his flesh and blood. A large amount of purple emperor energy and power of desire was injected into his flesh and blood, causing his flesh and blood to become even more powerful. It became crystal clear, like a solidified crystal. Flying in the air, he had to endure 10,000 times the gravity. It was as if he was enduring mountains at every moment. Even the blood-kill guards couldn't increase their speed too quickly under such pressure. After a full 2 hours, they appeared 100,000 miles away. This is the Death Canyon. The group of demons stopped, and Medusa said with a serious expression, "Whoosh." Tion slowly exhaled, and the undying divine rings around him quickly retracted. The light in his eyes dimmed, but there was a gentle expression. In his body, in the demon palace, the originally dimmed demon refining cauldron finally recovered under his relentless nourishment. It was operating at a constant speed on its own, absorbing the vast amount of yuan qi and power of desire between heaven and earth. The heavy injuries that it had suffered in the beast tide had basically recovered. Hearing Medusa's words, he hurriedly opened his eyes and looked in front of him. Even though Tion had experienced all kinds of dangerous places, he couldn't help but be slightly shocked. His expression changed slightly. What a dangerous canyon. In front of him was an incomparably huge canyon. This canyon was like an incomparably huge mountain that had been cleaved apart by a saber. It was split into 2 halves, and a long passageway appeared in the middle. It was large enough to accommodate thousands of people at the same time without feeling crowded. The canyon was very, very long. It stretched for no less than 1,000 miles. Around the canyon, it was shrouded in a strange fog. The fog was very strange. It was strangely sticky, and even the divine sense could not penetrate it. Vaguely, one could see that there were many unremarkable withered vines growing in the fog. They seemed harmless, but they densely covered the mountain peaks around the canyon. If one did not look carefully, it would be almost impossible to notice. However, Tion keenly sensed that these withered vines seemed to contain an incredible power. I seem to have heard of this withered vine before. Dark also saw the withered vine and murmured. Its dragon claw knocked on its head as if it was trying hard to recall something, but it couldn't. Woo-woo. In the canyon, on both sides of the mountain walls, there were countless ancient caves of different sizes. The number of caves was extremely large, and they were densely distributed on every inch of the mountain walls. What entered one's eyes were thousands of holes, and they looked very similar to a beehive. There was no sign of life in the canyon. It was filled with a deathly stillness. In those caves, there was a sharp whistling sound of wind. Waves of strange gray wind constantly spewed out of the caves, and wave after wave, they filled the entire canyon. One could smell the scent of death in that strange wind. In the canyon, the strange wind was ferocious. It swept up rocks and soil and danced in the air. It blew until the sky turned dark. It was fine at the edge of the canyon, but the deeper one went, the stronger the strange wind became. However, the strange thing was that this strange wind seemed to be under some mysterious restriction. It only blew in the canyon and did not rush out of the canyon. In the canyon, the wind was raging, but outside it was calm. It looked like two completely different worlds. This is the Death Canyon. Suluzi looked up and scanned the canyon. The bloody gourd in his hand flashed, and a drug lord appeared out of thin air. Under his control, he threw it into the canyon. How? The drug lord did not die. After being thrown into the canyon, it seemed to have sensed some kind of terrifying danger. It flapped its wings with all its might and let out a terrified cry. It turned around and was about to fly out of the canyon. Woo! However, the strange wind in the canyon seemed to have a life of its own. It sensed the drug lord's arrival, and a strange gray wind instantly rushed over and blew past the drug lord's body. The strange wind entered his body and passed through him in an instant. Amidst a mournful howl, the light around the huge and ferocious drug lord suddenly became abnormally dim. His flesh and blood melted away at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if they were rotting away by the strange wind. In the blink of an eye, the flesh and blood completely disappeared. Feathers fell to the ground and turned into a skeleton. Then, the skeleton was also eroded by the strange wind. It turned into gray powder and dissipated in the air. When Shueya and the others saw this, they could not help but take in a deep breath of cold air. That poison lord was a savage bird whose fighting strength was comparable to that of a big ancient demon. To think that he would be blown into smithereens by a single gust of wind. This scene was simply terrifying. The strange wind only blew for a while. It seemed to have sensed that there were no external objects, so it stopped again. The canyon returned to its peaceful state. What a terrifying, strange wind of death. When it blows on the body, it can actually enter the body through the pores and take away the life force. It will completely rot the body. D. Shirtian's pupils contracted violently. He looked at the Death Canyon with an unusually solemn expression. Just that strange wind alone was enough to make this canyon live up to its name of death. If one entered without knowing the root of this place, they would not even know how they died. My mother once told me about the strange wind in the Death Canyon. Even if one has cultivated an undying body, if one is sucked in and cannot find a way out, even his undying body may be blown away. This wind can take away all life force. It is extremely terrifying. If the Demon Emperor wants to set up an ambush against the 10 great immortal sects, this should be the best place. Medusa looked at D. Shirtian and said, "Good. This is the burial ground of the 10 great immortal sects. However, if we want them to fall into our trap, we have to set up a good trap." The moment D. Shirtian saw the Death Canyon, he had already decided to set up an ambush here. This was simply a place of death bestowed by the heavens. Virtual illusory realm. D. Shirtian shouted softly. A ray of light shot out from between his brows. Within the ray of light, a quaint picture scroll appeared above his head. The picture scroll unfolded, and it was filled with a bizarre scene. There seemed to be countless strange scenes that were constantly changing. He could do whatever he wanted. As long as he could think of something, it would be perfectly presented in the painting. As soon as the virtual illusory realm appeared, immediately, he flew into the air above the Death Canyon. He hovered above the canyon, and rays of light shot out from the virtual illusory realm. They scattered in all directions, covering every inch of the canyon. Immediately, wherever the rays of light covered, a dreamlike scene appeared in front of them. The mountain peak that was originally shrouded in fog turned into a dense forest under the rays of light. Various towering ancient trees were scattered everywhere, and there were countless strange flowers and herbs. The two sides of the canyon that were originally lifeless became full of vitality in the blink of an eye, exuding a thriving aura. At a glance, It was a beautiful mountain scenery. The canyon was covered with grass, and the cliffs were covered with ancient vines. It exuded an elegant and profound aura. There was no deathly stillness at all. At a glance, it was the most ordinary canyon. On the cliffs, there was a trickle of clear spring water flowing continuously. Heaven and earth changed. This was heaven and earth changing. When Gord Seed, Schwescher, and the others saw this, their eyes revealed an inexplicable look. Witnessing all these changes with their own eyes, the awe in their hearts could not help but become stronger. Although they knew that everything in front of them was fake, after taking a careful breath, they could smell the fragrance in the air and the vitality exuding. It could even deceive their senses. Even if they used their divine consciousness to investigate, they could not find any flaws. When they reached out and pulled out a blade of grass, it was no different from a real thing. It was really extraordinary. The virtual illusory realm already had an incredible power. I said, when the real turns to the real turns to the fake, and when the fake turns to the fake turns to the real. Tian looked at the changes in the canyon and said calmly. As soon as his voice fell, there seemed to be a mysterious power that dispersed from his body and landed in the canyon. For a moment, a gentle breeze blew, and the surroundings were filled with the fragrance of flowers and birds. It was a natural fairy-like scene. The virtual illusory realm rippled and disappeared without a sound. Enter the heavens reincarnation bell. A light flashed above Tian's head, and a crystal bell immediately appeared. The bell's body flashed and slightly rotated. The surrounding void twisted and rotated. All of the blood-kill guards, including Schwescher, were instantly sucked into the ancient bell. In the blink of an eye, the lively figures disappeared. Then, in a burst of crystal light, the ancient bell quickly shrank into a speck of dust. For a moment, the canyon returned to silence. Looking at the surrounding birds and flowers, no one could imagine what kind of terrifying, murderous intent was contained within this beautiful scenery. And just as Tian was secretly setting up a killing trap and waiting for the enemy to enter, on the battlefield where the savage beast tide had occurred, whoosh, 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 a snow-white auspicious cloud broke through the air, and from the auspicious cloud, immortal-like cultivators swept down. Leading them were the direct disciples of the Great Void Palace, the Heavenly Secret Sect, and the other major immortal sects, Tai Xian, Meng Yao, Li Qinglian, the Celestial Maiden of 4 stars, and the others. Behind them, there were several elders, each of them with a divine light in their eyes. Clearly, they were all almighties who were at the level of ancient giants. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:38. Brothers who have tickets, please help me buy some tickets. These elders had different characteristics. Some emitted billowing demonic aura, giving off overbearing and cold aura. Some had sharp auras, like unsheathed swords. Some are modest and ethereal. Some are old women, giving off mysterious auras. These were all ancient giants that were extremely rare to see in the pig sky myriad worlds. They seemed to have condensed their own wills in their bodies. However, these elders and old women stood silently behind Tai Xian, Meng Yao, and the others, deliberately keeping a distance of half a step. It was as if they were showing respect to Tai Xian and the others. Tai Xian and the others were the true direct disciples of the sect. Ancient giants were definitely not the end of their cultivation, but they had the potential to become unparalleled experts. Once he broke through to become a peerless expert, he would be like a carp leaping through the dragon gate, truly becoming the most respected existence in the world. They were the real, precious wealth of the sect. Whenever there were good resources, they would be provided with unlimited resources for cultivation. They would even spend a lot of wealth to send them into the supreme artifact to reverse time for cultivation. They were extremely valued. As for these old men, although they were all ancient giants compared to the direct disciples, their status in the sect was actually lower by a level. Because their potential had basically been exhausted, they might not have the chance to become unparalleled experts in this lifetime. They could only be trapped in this realm forever. Aptitude and potential had determined their future status. Behind those old men was an army that emitted an intimidating aura. It was an army that was in strict formation. Every warrior in this army was wearing a purple immortal robe. The robe gave off a noble aura, covering the whole body without any burdensome parts. On their backs, there was a purple battle sword, a purple scabbard, and a purple hilt. There were mysterious purple sword runes on them. Faintly, there were traces of purple lightning flashing on the battle swords. Every sword guard stood quietly in their original positions, but they naturally exuded an extremely terrifying pressure. It was as if the area around them was covered by their own sword domain. What flowed in his meridians was pure sword energy that was like a surging river. Their bodies naturally gave off a sharp aura. There were nearly 50,000 people in this army. The discipline was extremely strict. Surprisingly, it was a Tao soldier nurtured by a sect of the human race. Several old men walked towards the battlefield. He carefully examined the traces left on the battlefield. There are traces of a large number of savage beasts on the battlefield. It would appear that a large number of savage beasts had appeared here before. Furthermore, a frightening battle had taken place here. There are traces of savage beasts fleeing in all directions. The conclusion of the battle should have been the savage beasts fleeing in disorder, said the old man with a red lotus imprint on his forehead, standing behind Li Qinglian. It is said that the Wanshou imperial dynasty has a unique treasure that can control beasts. Once it is used, it can cause a beast tide. I think that after Crown Prince Chengshou of the Wanshou imperial dynasty received the news, he incited the beast tide and engaged in an intense battle with the demonic emperors. The turbid eyes of an old woman behind the 4 stars, celestial maiden, shone brightly, as if she had seen through many problems at a glance. This battlefield is still filled with a strong smell of blood and killing intent. The fierce battle at that time must have been incomparably tragic. However, this battlefield seems to be a little too strange. A beautiful middle-aged woman behind Meng Yao slightly frowned. Between her eyebrows, there was a red birthmark of a hemorrhoid. She scanned the surroundings and said doubtfully, "The entire battlefield was indeed very strange. Clean. It was really too clean. There was not even a trace of blood on the ground, and not a single bone was left behind. If it were not for the smell of blood that still lingered in the air, perhaps no one would have guessed that an incomparably tragic battle had actually taken place on the plain before them just a while ago. I heard that the divination technique of the Heaven's Secret sect is second to none. Sister Xuanji, you have inherited the sect's true teachings. I wonder if you can help us find out what happened here." At this moment, a crafty look flashed across the 100 transformation witch's eyes. She suddenly looked at the 4 stars, celestial maiden, and asked. Her words seemed to carry a probing intent. "Since Sister Dingdang has such a wish, how can I not allow it?" The 4 stars, celestial maiden smiled faintly. Her slender fingers suddenly drew a circle in front of her. Immediately, an illusory mirror of light appeared in front of her. A series of ripples appeared in the mirror, and fragments of scenes appeared. A huge number of savage beasts gathered to form a terrifying beast tide, and countless savage birds covered the sky. The murderous aura intimidated the blood-killing guards in the void, and Di Shi Tian faced the monstrous demonic flames of the beast tide head-on. A series of shocking scenes flashed through the mirror at a rapid speed. This was a remarkable ability of the Heaven's Secret sect, reversal of Heaven's secrets. It could condense a Heaven's Secrets mirror and reconstruct what happened not long ago in the area. However, it was impossible to see the complete scene, and only fragments of it could be seen. Even so, it was still immeasurably marvelous. When deducing, it was enough to figure out the specific things that had happened before from some fragments. Gotcha. The image on the Heaven's Secrets mirror suddenly stopped at the scene of Di Shurtion being cut in half by a pair of golden dragon scissors. The double-headed golden dragon emperor of the 9 great savage beast emperors. What a domineering golden dragon scissors. Li Qinglian's gaze froze as she stared fixedly at the scene of the golden dragon scissors tearing through the heavens. She was secretly in awe. What kind of reaction would she have when she was restrained in such a situation? Would she be able to resist it? Di Shurtion. Demoness Ding Dong's expression changed slightly as she looked at the figure cut in half by the golden dragon scissors. Finally, the Heaven's Secrets mirror showed the remnants of the blood-killing guards beginning to leave. A wise light flashed in the 4 stars, celestial maiden's eyes, as she smiled faintly. Everyone, from what we saw in the Heaven's Secrets mirror, although the demon emperor withstood the attack of the beast tide, he was injured by the golden dragon scissors and may be severely injured. The blood-killing guards have been reduced from 30,000 to 20,000. This time, their overall strength is bound to be greatly reduced. In my opinion, this is the best opportunity not to be missed. The demon emperor being severely injured was a great opportunity bestowed by the heavens to eliminate him. Everyone here was outstanding, so how could they not see this? Chase. Tai Xian looked at the void, his body faintly exuding a touch of anticipation. Seeing that Di Shurtion was able to not only preserve his life in front of the Golden Dragon Emperor, whose battle strength was almost comparable to that of a peerless expert, but also defeated him, his competitive spirit was completely aroused. Haha, this time, I went to the sect to personally report to the elders and dispatch the Purple Cloud Swordsman, one of the 3 Dao soldiers of my Sky Sword Valley, to compete with the blood-killing guards in the Demon Emperor's hands. How could I give up halfway? Li Qinglian said with a carefree smile as she swept a glance at the Dao soldier, following behind her from the corner of her eye. The Purple Cloud Swordsman. Behind her was one of the 3 Dao soldiers secretly nurtured by the Sky Sword Valley, hidden and never shown in front of the major cultivators, the Purple Cloud Swordsman. It was said that the Sky Sword Valley had 3 Dao soldiers, namely the Purple Cloud Swordsman, the Iron Blood Swordsman, and the Green Lotus Swordsman. Each of them had unparalleled battle strength. It was just that they had never been known to outsiders. Who would have thought that today, a Purple Cloud Swordsman would be sent out? It could be seen that the importance of Di Shurtion to the 10 great immortal sects had once again risen to another level. Hee, I just wanted to see my dream lover and see if he still has the same character as before. The demoness Ding Dang smiled and blinked her eyes. Her snow-white arms gently shook a few times, letting out a crisp bell sound. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, immediately, the group returned to the huge white auspicious cloud. That auspicious cloud was refined using an unknown method. Under the 10,000 times gravity of the 4th floor of Tong Tian Tower, it actually flew into the air at an extremely fast speed. It was unknown what method they used, but they quickly followed the direction of Di Shurtion and the others to Death Valley. Along the way, they did not make a single mistake. In terms of tracking, they had an extremely terrifying ability, following the path that Di Shurtion had taken. In addition to the speed of the white, auspicious cloud, the group only used 2 hours to appear in front of Death Valley. They're here. Sakura, who was hiding in the Heavenly Pig reincarnation bell, instantly sensed the change outside. He fiercely looked outside through the ancient bell and clearly saw the scene outside. Sky Sword Valley's Li Qinglian, Fate King Tai Xian, Heaven's Secret Sects Goddess Xuanji, Myriad Demons Palaces Ding Dang, Benevolent Boathouses Meng Yao, and a monk. That army, could it be the legendary Dao soldiers? With just a glance, Sakura took everything into his eyes and imprinted it in his heart. When he completely confirmed the guess in his heart, he also couldn't help but pay attention to the sword guard who was emitting a sharp sword aura that followed them. Information about the Dao soldiers of the human race immediately appeared in his mind. TSK, what a Dao soldier. Dark clicked his tongue, but there was still a solemn look in his eyes. Madman D, you have to be careful. I found out from the prisoners that were taken into the infernal prison that there are 3 Tao soldiers in the heavenly Sword Valley. One of them is called Swordsman Zi Shao. Judging from the clothes of this Tao soldier and the sword chi that it emits, it should be the legendary Swordsman Zi Shao. The Tao soldiers raised by the human race are extremely unique. Legend has it that each Tao soldier has an extremely unique battle formation diagram. They can unleash terrifying attack power. A human Tao soldier? I could take this opportunity to test the combat strength of the Tao soldiers. Di Shirtian's eyes gradually deepened. The human race had been the main characters of the world for countless years. Whether it was cultivation techniques or other aspects, they had almost reached a peak stage. With the human race's creativity and reproductive ability, coupled with their natural Tao bodies, their cultivation was often extremely fast. He had a deep understanding of the human race. He knew that the human race was best at hiding their strength. What was displayed on the surface was often the most superficial. Until the end, no one would know what kind of trump cards they were hiding. Tao soldiers. This was a very familiar term in the world. Everyone in the universe knew what a Tao soldier meant, but those who had actually seen one with their own eyes could be counted on one's fingers. They had always been very mysterious. Now is the best time to see the power of a Tao soldier. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 9:39. Throw in some votes if you have. Brothers, give it your all. Towering ancient trees, chirping birds, fragrant flowers, green grass, exotic fragrances, and a small spring. What a fairyland! Meng Yao's eyes lit up when she stopped before the gorge and looked at the fairyland before her. She took a deep breath and smelled the strange fragrance in the air. She couldn't help but reveal a carefree and happy expression. She didn't know what to say. Instead, she took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance in the air. The scenery in front of her was too dreamy. It was like a fairyland in a dream. The aura of the Goblin Emperor's group disappeared after they arrived here. My aura examination technique can no longer detect the aura they are emitting. Li Qinglian frowned slightly and looked around. In her eyes, there was a faint trace of a different color that flickered, as if she could see things that ordinary people could not see. Aura examination technique. Every person, every life form, and even the experts themselves exuded a different chi. It was unique to them, just like how palm prints were unique to one's own body. However, these auras were invisible and intangible. Ordinary people couldn't see them at all. They could only feel them invisibly. This was a kind of aura. The aura was so strong that even ordinary people could feel it. The aura examination technique was a unique secret technique that could see this invisible aura. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. Di Shirtian and his group had instinctively gone through a fierce battle. When they gathered together, they naturally emitted a unique murderous aura. It was because of the aura examination technique that he could follow the murderous aura in the air that he was able to follow them all the way here. He didn't expect that after chasing them all the way here, he would find that the original murderous aura had mysteriously disappeared. It disappeared without a trace. In my opinion, the Goblin Emperor's group is obviously heading in this direction. They've been going straight all the way without any changes. Obviously, if nothing goes wrong, they must be going through the canyon. The environment here is peaceful. Perhaps the aura they're emitting has cleansed and covered up the murderous aura on their bodies. Ding Dang blinked and looked around as he said with a smile. However, there was no sign that they were going to walk into the canyon. I don't know why, but I feel an indescribable sense of danger in this canyon. The 4 stars celestial maiden frowned slightly as she looked at the canyon in front of her. For some reason, the dreamlike fairyland scenery in front of her seemed like an illusion to her. He reached out and pulled out a stalk of grass from the ground. He could clearly feel the fresh air and vitality emitted from the grass. This was real. Tai Xian listened to what the others were saying. With a flash of light in his hand, the Cosmos treasure mirror appeared in his left hand. Then, with a flash of light in his right hand, an iron brush appeared in his hand. He flipped open the treasure mirror, and the iron brush was like a knife as it quickly wrote on the treasure mirror. Under the guidance of fate, all illusions will turn into nothingness, and all reality will appear before me. When these words appeared on the Taishu treasure mirror, an invisible force seemed to descend from the heavens and earth, about to envelop the entire canyon. However, in an instant, a gentle breeze blew past, seemingly dispersing some of the fog. On the other side of the canyon, a group of figures suddenly appeared. A group of neatly arranged blood-killing guards, whose bodies were covered with wounds of various sizes, were escorting a noble throne as they quickly fled forward. It's the Demon Emperor. They really did pass through here. Li Qinglian's eyes flashed with a bright light. It seems that they suffered a lot of damage in the beast tide. Quickly chase after them. The old woman standing behind the 4 stars, the celestial maiden, immediately shouted. The scene that appeared at the end of the canyon immediately stirred their hearts. Moreover, although the figure disappeared in a flash, it could be seen that although the Demon Emperor and his party had escaped from the beast tide, they were still in an extremely sorry state and seemed to have suffered a lot of damage. This was a rare opportunity. They immediately became restless. The white, auspicious cloud under their feet immediately moved toward the canyon. Not good. There's danger. Tai Xian's expression suddenly changed, and he exclaimed softly, his eyelids twitching violently. A strong aura of danger flashed wildly in his heart. Retreat quickly, it's a trap. The 4 stars celestial maiden's face turned pale. She also smelled the terrible danger emanating from the unseen world. She only felt that the hair all over her body was about to stand on end. It was so exciting that her scalp was about to go numb. The moment the auspicious cloud entered the canyon, the others also sensed the unusual death aura that pervaded the surroundings. Their expressions changed drastically, and their hearts beat wildly. Without thinking, they turned the auspicious cloud around and went back along the route they came from. Clang! At this moment, outside the canyon, an ancient bell suddenly appeared in the air. Mysterious scrolls appeared on the surface of this ancient bell, intertwining with each other, causing the ancient bell to exude an ancient aura. It was as though everything was being reincarnated within the bell. After the ancient bell appeared, it glowed with a bright crystal light, and in the blink of an eye, it grew to a size of thousands of feet. The ancient bell shook violently, and immediately the bell hammer struck the bell body, causing a loud bell chime to erupt. Rings of seemingly solid sound waves crazily spread in all directions like a tide. The space was unable to withstand the sound waves. It crumbled inch by inch, forming tiny reincarnation plates. Countless strange, ancient demonic sounds, murderous sounds, praying sounds, and blessings could be heard from them. Upon hearing these sounds, the scene of reincarnation naturally appeared in one's mind. They were about to be completely immersed in the sound of reincarnation. Rumble. Not only did the huge white auspicious cloud not retreat under the tsunami-like sound waves, it was pushed a large distance further into the canyon by a huge wave of air. The bell of heaven's reincarnation. It's the Demon Emperor's bell of heaven's reincarnation. Mingyao's expression suddenly changed. Under the sound of the ancient bell, even with her temperament, she still fell into a trance for a moment. When she came back to her senses, she could not help but exclaim, "Trap, this is a trap. The scene that I just saw was all fake." Li Qinglian's heart raced. She saw that the surrounding canyon, which was originally like a fairyland, suddenly rippled under the power of destiny and mysteriously dissipated. The exotic flowers, strange grass, and towering ancient trees instantly collapsed. What awaited them was a barren scene. The canyon was filled with a deathly stillness, and both sides of the canyon were shrouded in layers of gray fog. The air was filled with the aura of death. Countless caves of various sizes appeared in front of them instantly. There was no longer any dreamlike scene. Swoosh! The heaven's reincarnation bell shook slightly, and instantly, Shirtion and the rest appeared in front of the canyon. 20,000 bloodstrike guards blocked the exit of the canyon, and pairs of blood-red eyes stared coldly at Tai Xian and the rest in the canyon. Traces of blood-red, murderous aura permeated from all around them. Demon King, it's you. Tai Xian's eyes immediately fell on Shirtion. A strong fighting spirit exuded from his body. Shirtion. A surprised expression appeared on Meng Yao's face. You actually set up a trap here, and you actually knew that we were chasing you. Li Qinglian's gaze was deep. She took a deep breath and quickly scanned the surroundings. When she saw the caves on the cliff, she instinctively smelled a strong sense of danger. Shirtion coldly scanned Tai Xian and the rest, who had already entered the canyon, and said indifferently, "It's impolite not to reciprocate. Since you can get Crown Prince Chengshou to start the beast tide to scheme against I, then why can't I scheme against you once? You want to scheme against me time and time again. Today, I will settle this with you here. 10 great celestial sects? In the past, I didn't want to fight with you so early, so I tolerated you. You didn't know what was good for you and took my tolerance as weakness, so you kept on forcing me. I retreated a foot, and you advanced 10 feet. If I still don't attack, you will really take advantage of me. So what if you are the direct disciples of the top 10 immortal sections? Today, I will let you know that if you annoy me, so what if I kill you? You schemed against me, but did you really think that I wouldn't set a trap? Enjoy the coming feast of death." Shirtion coldly spat out a few words. In his words, there was a trace of cold, killing intent. "Not good, rush out." Li Qinglian's face became serious, and the green lotus mark between her eyebrows suddenly glowed with a strange green light. A 6th-grade green lotus flew out in an instant. The green lotus rotated, bursting out pure green lotus sword chi. It fiercely protected her body under the green lotus. Woo woo woo. At the same time, the originally calm canyon seemed to sense the appearance of life. Immediately, in the countless caves on the cliff, there was a strange whistling sound. This sound, with a strong penetrating power, quickly penetrated the minds of everyone in the canyon. In that sound, there was an aura of death. Gusts of strange gray wind spurted out of the caves. They gathered together and rushed toward Tai Xian and the rest like a tide. The snow-white, auspicious clouds were instantly blown away by the strange wind. Many of the purple cloud swordsmen were not paying attention and were blown by the strange wind. Immediately, their bodies shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, their flesh and blood were completely blown away. The vitality in their bodies was disappearing at an alarming speed. In the blink of an eye, the swordsmen who were still alive were blown into powder. Their entire bodies were turned into powder. The aura of death pervaded the entire canyon. Oh no, this wind is strange. It could devour vitality. Each of the purple cloud swordsmen is an immortal emperor expert, but they were turned into powder in an instant. Under the protection of fate, the power of heaven and earth has turned into a barrier to ward off all external evils. Tai Xian quickly wrote an edict on the Taishu treasure mirror. Immediately, in the surrounding void, an invisible force fiercely stirred up heaven and earth. In a split second, a seemingly solid barrier appeared around them, protecting everyone under the barrier. Inside this barrier, it was like being in an independent world. I am the son of fate, the king of fate. The omnipresent power of fate in heaven and earth listens to my command. Under the power of fate, all evils of heaven and earth will vanish into nothingness. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 940. Under destiny was destiny. Strands of destiny intertwined and converged into a continuous long river of destiny. The power of destiny had all kinds of mysterious and mighty powers that were above the heavens. It could also command heaven and earth. As soon as Tai Xian's voice fell, the invisible power of destiny quickly swept toward the wind of death that was swirling in the canyon. In the power of destiny, there was a mysterious power that could soothe and calm everything. It was transmitted to the strange wind of death, as if it wanted to calm it down. Woo-woo. However, the wind of death was extremely strange. Although a portion of the strange wind was calmed and eliminated by the arrival of the fate power, an even more ferocious and overbearing strange wind immediately blew out from the cave. Wave after wave of attacks came whistling over and crashed into the barrier. Rumble. The barrier that was shining with divine brilliance immediately dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye after it came into contact with the strange wind, as if it was quickly disintegrating the defense of the barrier. This strange wind has the power of death and can blow away all the power of life. Its source is in the caves on both sides of the canyon. If the source is not destroyed, the strange wind will not be completely eliminated and will continue to sweep over. If we stay in the canyon for too long, we will be exhausted to death. Tai Xian saw that the power of destiny could not completely disintegrate the wind of death. Instead, the strange wind in the cave became more and more violent. He immediately understood that the canyon in front of him was probably a naturally formed danger zone. If they were trapped here, they would be in danger of dying. We must kill our way out. Li Qinglian, Meng Yao, and the others looked at each other and saw the same determination in each other's eyes. In this canyon, the deeper they went, the more violent and domineering the strange wind was. Once they were trapped, they might not even be able to find a way out. The only way now was to rush out from where they came in. However, the exit of the canyon was blocked by Di Shirtian. From Sakura's brief words, they were almost certain that this time he had absolutely made up his mind to kill them. It was impossible to leave them with any chance of survival. Your Majesty, you are so cruel. Ding Dang looked at Di Shirtian with eyes full of resentment. That pitiful look was almost enough to touch the heart of any man in the world, making people feel pity. She gently lifted her left arm, which was as white as a snow lotus. On her wrist, there was a small green bell. She shouted, "The strange winds in the valley will be blocked by this little sister for the time being. You guys find a way to open a way out." Ding ding dang dang. His arm began to sway in a strange rhythm. A series of clear and melodious chimes rang out, and invisible sound waves quickly spread out in all directions. Wherever the sound wave passed, the wind of death that was violently sweeping in from all directions seemed to be strangely bound by some kind of strange restriction, and it suddenly became still in the air, as if it was fixed. Wind calming bell. This was the wind calming bell that the ancient wind god had refined back then. It could calm all kinds of heavenly winds between heaven and earth. I didn't expect it to appear in the hands of this witch. Ming stared at the green bell before quickly sweeping his gaze over the other bells on Ding Dang's hands and feet. He narrowed his eyes and said, "This which has obtained a treasure left behind by the ancient wind god. However, the wind of death in this death canyon is extremely tyrannical. With her strength, she will definitely not be able to stay still for long. Purple Firmament Swordsman, listen to my order. Set up the Purple Firmament Lightning Sword formation and break through the thorns. Kill." Li Qinglian's eyes revealed a sharp sword intent as she issued an order to the Purple Firmament Swordsman behind her. Instantly, tens of thousands of Purple Firmament Swordsmen moved quickly and set up a sword formation in a strange pattern. There was a faint, mysterious connection between the Purple Firmament Swordsmen. They outlined the abstruse sword principles one after another. Chi-chi-chi. A purple sword light that connected the sky and the earth shot out from each of the purple sword guards, shooting straight into the clouds. The sword lights intertwined in the void according to a mysterious connection between them, forming mysterious sword scars in the void. These sword scars gathered together to form a purple sword formation diagram. This was a Purple Firmament sword formation diagram. Once it was formed, the entire formation diagram appeared in the air as if it was real. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The purple firmament swordsman rose into the air and rushed into the formation diagram. In the blink of an eye, they merged into it and disappeared. At the same time, one could clearly see huge purple battle swords condensing out of thin air. On the battle swords, there were countless mysterious purple sword runes. Purple lightning flashed crazily on the battle swords. Around the battle sword, the space was cut into a series of hideous and terrifying cracks. For a moment, the area around the formation diagram seemed to have become the domain of the swords. In the formation diagram, a terrifying sword essence was emitted. The space around the formation diagram faintly showed signs of collapsing. The pressure it emitted was almost comparable to that of a peerless expert. Once enveloped by the sword formation, even heaven and earth would be cut into countless pieces. Boom, boom, boom. After the formation map was completely condensed, it immediately swept towards the exit of the canyon. It wanted to completely cover Sakura, Shirtion, and the rest of the demon clan under the formation map and grind them into dust. Sword formation diagram. Shirtion's eyes narrowed. He felt the terrifying sword essence emitted from the sword formation diagram. He had no doubt that the purple firmament swordsman who formed the sword formation diagram had the terrifying power to contend with a peerless expert. However, how could he back down now? He sneered inwardly. Do you really think I'll be afraid of you after forming the sword formation diagram? Purple firmament swordsman, try my blood killing guards. Blood killing guards, annihilation, divine light. Boom, boom, boom. With this order, the remaining 20,000 blood-killing guards immediately took 3 ferocious steps forward under the lead of the 3 blood-killing generals. At the same time, a blood-red eye opened between the eyebrows of the blood-killing guards. That eye contained an ice-cold, killing intent. It was full of a terrifying aura that could destroy everything. The moment the blood-red eye opened, streaks of blood-red divine light containing the power of annihilation shot out. It was like a heavenly killing sword that bombarded the purple firmament sword formation diagram. In the purple firmament sword formation diagram, countless huge purple firmament swords also burst out. They drew mysterious trajectories and slashed at the blood-red annihilation divine light. Boom, boom, boom. The sword formation diagram and the annihilation divine light violently collided. In the surroundings of the collision, the space was annihilated at a speed visible to the naked eye, collapsing into countless terrifying fragments. For a moment, at the exit of the canyon, countless purple and blood-red lights filled every inch of space. The entire void seemed to shake violently in this collision, and the ground was constantly rumbling. The entire sword formation diagram was in a stalemate for a moment, then suddenly rolled back. Humph! At the same time, the blood-killing guards took a step back in unison. They were actually on par with each other. Green lotus blooming. Li Qinglian saw that the purple firmament sword formation diagram was actually blocked by the blood-killing guards. It was unable to break through the passage at all. She raised her eyebrows, stretched out her hand, and pointed at the green lotus in front of her. With a sword technique, streaks of green lotus sword chi immediately burst out from the 6th grade green lotus, and in an instant, illusory green lotuses were condensed. They kept spinning and quickly swept out of the canyon. As the green lotuses spun, the lotuses withered and scattered in all directions. Everywhere they passed, the space was cut open. Each petal contained pure green lotus sword chi. It's not that easy to break out of the canyon. Gord Luzi's face was filled with a cold, iron-blooded, murderous aura. When he saw the overwhelming green lotuses rushing over, he immediately took a step forward without waiting for Shirtion to make a move. The blood gourd in his hand flew into the air, emitting a blood-red light. A thick blood-red light spurted out from a gourd. This blood-red light carried a terrifying murderous aura that almost tore the void apart. This murderous aura quickly condensed into blood-red weapons and battle flags. There were also countless iron-blooded battle souls. They pounced toward the green lotuses that filled the sky. Destiny is supreme and omnipresent. Under destiny, the 5 elements of heaven and earth will turn into a millstone that will crush my enemies. Between heaven and earth, the clear air will rise to the sky, and the turbid air will sink to the ground. The clear air of heaven and earth will become the stairway to heaven and help me escape this predicament. Tai Xian walked step by step in the air. The iron pen in his hand was like a knife as he quickly scribbled the mantra of destiny on the Taishu treasure mirror. As his voice fell, in the canyon, a cloud of snow-white, clear air suddenly fell from the sky. This cloud of clear air condensed together and converged into a snow-white stairway to heaven. The entire stairway directly extended out of the canyon. In front of the stairway to heaven, the strange winds of death could not invade it. It was as if this was a path to heaven. At the same time, outside the canyon, the 5 colored rays converged. The power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth condensed into a ball in the air in an incredible way, forming a huge 5-colored millstone. In that millstone, the power of the 5 elements flowed as if the whole heaven and earth were connected together. The millstone rotated, and the space under the millstone collapsed into powder on the spot. With a loud bang, it came crashing down toward Sakura. Under the 5-element millstone, Sakura didn't have the slightest intention of moving. Looking at the millstone above his head, his body emitted a boundless might as he spat out a sentence. 5 elements of heaven and earth, heed my command, disperse. As his voice faded, an invisible will burst forth from his body. In an instant, it landed on the 5-element millstone. Immediately, the millstone, which was originally overbearingly crushing downwards, suddenly came to a halt. It trembled violently in the air, as if there were 2 forces continuously colliding with each other on the millstone. It caused the millstone to condense and disperse in an instant. It caused the surrounding space to be constantly distorted. Want to come out of the canyon? With me here today, no one can think of coming out. Above his head, the bell of heaven's reincarnation glowed brightly. One by one, the fire crows pulled out the blazing sun primordial fire and flew out continuously from the ancient bell. At the first moment, they gathered into the fire crow formation. It turned into a huge blazing sun. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 941. It's almost the end of the month. Those who have tickets, throw them. In the golden sun, one could clearly see that millions of fire crows had gathered into a huge, 3-legged golden crow that exuded the aura of an emperor. The sun was condensed from the golden feathers on its body. The golden crow raised its head proudly and let out a silent crow cry. It pounced toward the stairway. The domineering, true sun fire almost instantly filled the surrounding air with an unimaginable blazing aura. The golden crow spread its wings, and the dark golden feathers were like battle swords shrouded in flames, launching the fiercest attack toward the stairway. Rumble! The stairway to heaven shook violently. Under the attack of the primordial fire of the sun, hideous cracks appeared on the stairway to heaven. Countless cracks appeared, and in an instant, they spread rapidly in all directions. The stairway to heaven that stretched out of the canyon collapsed inch by inch at a speed visible to the naked eye. Under fate, yin and yang alternate between heaven and earth, the cycle of the sun and the moon. The sun is so bright, but after the light, it will be shrouded in darkness. The stairway collapsed, and it could no longer spread out of the canyon. Tai Xian, who was standing on the stairway, fell back into the canyon. However, he did not panic because of this. Instead, he said another sentence unhurriedly. His body was shrouded in a mysterious light. It was as if his every move and every word was connected to fate. Every single one of his words could condense into an unparalleled force that could shake the heavens and earth. It was many times more wonderful than silent meditation. As soon as he finished speaking, in the canyon, all the light seemed to have disappeared in an instant. A pitch-black curtain of night appeared strangely. The curtain of night was so deep that it seemed to be able to swallow all the light. It quickly spread out and covered a large area. Like a terrifying beast that could swallow heaven and earth, it shrouded toward the golden sun. Rumble. Immediately, a strange situation appeared in the sky above the canyon. Heaven and earth seemed to be divided into two halves. On one side was endless darkness, and on the other side was the blazing sun. This was the collision of darkness and light. At the intersection, the entire space was constantly twisting. For a moment, even the true sun fire could not burst out its domineering power. Fate? Tai Xian, you're just a child of destiny. Even if you really are connected to the sovereign of fate, you've dared to scheme against me time and time again. Do you really think that I wouldn't dare to touch you? Di Shirtian sat on his throne. The throne soared into the air, and the will of the emperor filled his body. His eyes were filled with a majestic aura. Looking at Tai Xian, his expression was cold as he berated, "If you anger me, even if you have the ruler of fate's bloodline, you will still die. I still dare to kill and bury them. If you really think that my patience is limitless, then you're wrong. My patience is limited. You've already crossed the limits of my patience. Today, I shall tell you that playing with fire will result in self-immolation." Di Shirtian coldly glanced at the outstanding human talents in the valley. He knew very well that if he didn't teach these people before him a deep and painful lesson, they would never know how to restrain themselves. Instead, he would take a mile when given an inch. Since he had set up a killing trap in the Death Canyon, he had no intention of letting these people walk out in one piece. Kill. He had to kill them until they were terrified. He had to kill them until they were terrified. At this moment, his killing intent was incomparably strong. Anyone who dares to scheme against, I shall be killed. Every word and sentence of Sakura contained a supreme will of dominating the heaven and earth. Instantly, he sat upright on the throne like the one and only supreme emperor in the heaven and earth, commanding all living things in the heaven and earth and giving orders to the heaven and earth. There was a supreme majesty in his expression. The power of lightning in the world. Obey I's order and transform into a spear of lightning that will judge all enemies. Kill the child of fate for me. Rumble. As soon as the words that contained the supreme will fell, the world immediately followed the words. Bolts of lightning of various sizes flashed out of the void. Each bolt of lightning contained an astonishing power and had a completely different aura. There was thunder, evil thunder, 5 elements divine thunder, purple heaven divine thunder, demon annihilating divine thunder, and so on. All kinds of lightning really did follow Di Shirtian's order and appeared one after another. Billions of bolts of lightning intertwined in a mysterious trajectory and merged perfectly, condensing into a 7-colored spear. On the spear, countless bolts of lightning flashed fiercely. Every bolt of lightning that burst out and landed in the surroundings made the surrounding space look as if it was cut by a sharp saber. Terrifying cracks were drawn. The spear shook and the surrounding lightning followed. The spear emitted a violent and terrifying power that could destroy everything. Crack! This spear was extremely huge, at least 1,000 feet long. There were clear, mysterious patterns on it. They outlined the Tao patterns of lightning in the world. The spear seemed to have a mind of its own as it aimed at Tai Xian. Without hesitation, the spear was aimed directly at his chest. It wanted to blast him into smithereens on the spot. Is it the golden mouth and jade words? Or is it the golden mouth edict? What kind of magical power did the demon emperor cultivate? Could it be that he has begun to merge thousands of magical powers into one? Gordzi's pupils unconsciously contracted a few times. Every time he saw the scene of Sakura commanding the heavens and earth with just a sentence, he always had a feeling of fear and trepidation in his heart. This wasn't a request to the heavens and earth, but a kind of naked command. This kind of command was extremely overbearing and almost didn't give the heavens and earth any power to refuse or influence. The meaning behind it was extremely terrifying. Commanding the world was something that even the most powerful experts could not do. Even Tai Xian had to write on the Taishu treasure mirror before he used the art of destiny. This was equivalent to submitting a request to the river of destiny. With his identity as the child of destiny, destiny would not reject his request. However, there seemed to be a difference between a request and an order. This made the Calabash unable to figure out what kind of heaven-defying divine ability Sakura was using from the beginning to the end. Demon Emperor, I have wanted to fight with you since a long time ago. Today, I can fulfill this wish of mine. Those who scheme will always be schemed against. I, Tai Xian, have no resentment towards you for falling into your trap. However, whether you can force me into the canyon today, you will have to defeat me first. Tai Xian naturally saw Di Shurqian's terrifying magical power. However, as the child of destiny, the pride and confidence in his heart did not allow him to retreat or fear. Instead, his heart was brimming with a desire to fight and even a desire to win that he had never had before. He did not believe that his art of destiny and Tao of destiny would lose to any magical power. Destiny is supreme. Under destiny, everything in the world will be punished. The 5 elements of the world in the trajectory of destiny will condense into the 5 elements millstone. The rotation of the 5 elements will obliterate the world. Tai Xian's face exuded an ethereal aura. Word by word, it was as if he was praying to destiny. Once again, he condensed the 5 elements of the world into a 5 colors millstone. In the millstone, the power of the 5 elements formed a 5 elements grand cycle with the principle of mutual promotion and restraint. The millstone that was condensed was 1,000 feet in size. There were also countless mysterious 5 elements Tao patterns on it. Rumble. The 5 elements promoted and restrained each other, giving birth to chaos. There was the side of life, and there was also the side of destruction. As soon as it was condensed, it immediately swept towards the Thunder Battle Spear with the power to destroy the world. The Thunder Battle Spear did not evade at all and blasted heavily in the middle of the millstone. It burst out with a strong destructive force, wanting to pierce through the millstone. Countless power of the 5 elements and the power of thunder and lightning crazily poured in all directions. All of a sudden, the surrounding void was constantly cracking. It showed a scene of destruction. The 5 elements and the 5 elements millstone reinforced each other and connected to form a grand cycle. It was almost incomparably stable. However, under the Thunder Battle Spear, there were actually small cracks in the middle of the millstone. It seemed to be unable to withstand the domineering power contained in the battle spear and showed signs of collapsing. The Thunder Battle Spear contained an extremely domineering willpower. Under the willpower, the battle spear was unusually stable and condensed. In the 5 elements millstone, there was obviously a unique willpower missing. Whether there was willpower or not, it was immediately obvious. However, Tai Xian was not surprised by this. His expression did not change. With a wave of his hand, a purple gold scale suddenly appeared in his hand. This scale had a tray on each side. Beside it, there were chips that looked like gold coins hanging. At this moment, both sides of the scale were the same height. It was balanced and incomparably fair. The scale of destiny. Dark cried out in surprise, staring at the scale. On the scale, there was a hidden trajectory of destiny. This was a supreme treasure that the ruler of destiny had personally refined. It could directly communicate with the boundless destiny. Back then, Di Shurqian had seen it with his own eyes in the heaven-reaching tower. Its power was indeed extremely unique and mysterious. Whoosh! The destiny scale flew out of his hand and suddenly enlarged in front of him. The scale emitted a formless power of destiny, and wisps of purple gold divine light flashed rapidly. Immediately, Divine light gathered on the two trays on each side of the scale, condensing into two illusory figures. An image of the five elements millstone appeared on the left, and an image of the thunder battle spear appeared on the right. At this moment, the thunder battle spear on the tray was extremely domineering, emitting endless destructive power. On the five elements millstone, there were also traces of cracks, and the five-color divine light seemed a little dim. The scale tilted down to the right. Obviously, in the Destiny scale, the Thunder Battle Spear was more powerful than the five elements millstone, and its power was astonishing. Tai Xian carefully picked up a purple gold chip on the scale and softly said, "Five elements cycle, life and death." Immediately, the chip in his hand that originally did not have any words on it suddenly had the ancient seal, "Five elements cycle, life and death," appear out of thin air. The chip landed on the tray on the left. As soon as it landed, an invisible force instantly fell on the five elements millstone. It was as if the five elements' origin had been injected into the millstone. Immediately, the cracks that appeared on the scale quickly overlapped at a speed visible to the naked eye. The dim divine light instantly burned brightly. Once again, it was in a fierce stalemate with the Thunder Battle Spear. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 942. It is said that Tai Xian has the bloodline of the ruler of fate. He obtained the fate inheritance and has the fate scale. He has the miraculous ability to change fate. In the scale, it could eliminate all unfavorable factors into nothingness and strengthen itself. Every chip is a chance to change fate. Every time he uses it, he has 9 chances. It is indeed incredible. Ding Dang had 3 green bells on his left hand. These are the 3 wind calming bells. On his right hand, there were 3 purple gold bells. On his snow-white feet, there were 3 black bells on his left foot and 3 crystal bells on his right foot. The wind-calming bells in his hand had temporarily stopped the wind of death around him. His eyes were also focused on the battle in front of him. When he saw Tai Xian take out the fate scale, his pupils constricted. On the fate scale, there were a total of 9 chips. However, there were only 8 chips now. This meant that even if there was the fate scale, fate would never stay for anyone forever. There was also a limit to the blessing of fate. If one couldn't turn the situation around in 9 chances, then the blessing of fate would leave you. The Monster Emperor has actually condensed his own Emperor will. He is still walking ahead of us. Meng Yao's eyes also constricted. She could clearly sense the Supreme will emitted from Di Shirtian's body. They had only been nurtured by their sex and spent large amounts of resources to become ancient giants. They didn't expect that they were still one step away. The battle was constantly changing. After Tai Xian took out the scale of destiny, he only put 1 chip on it and immediately reversed the disadvantage of the 5-element millstone. With the Thunder Battle Spear in a fierce stalemate, the surrounding void collapsed inch by inch, causing the surroundings to be in a scene of great destruction. However, he didn't panic at all. He reached out and picked up the second chip. Shackle Will. As soon as he said that, a line of ancient characters appeared on the chip of fate. It was none other than Will Shackle. Following which, he didn't hesitate to place the chip on the tray on the right. In an instant, Sakura, who was sitting on the numinous sky throne, could only feel that in the void, there was an invisible, mysterious force that entered his body through his pores at a shocking speed. It appeared in the demon residence at the first instant and turned into crystal chains that appeared in front of the 11th grade Black Lotus out of thin air. The Emperor's will that was condensed on the Black Lotus was instantly bound and restrained. In an instant, he felt as if his will had suddenly disappeared. Despicable. He actually used the power of fate to shackle your will. Damn it. Is the fate scale that great? Too despicable. Take it away. Take the fate scale from his hand. Let him try. Let's see how arrogant he can be without the scale. Dark made threatening gestures. The fate scale was the ruler of fate. It was a top treasure. Although it wasn't an innate spiritual treasure, it was comparable to a top innate spiritual treasure. It was a top treasure. When Sakura saw that his own was actually locked and bound by crystal iron chains, a violent rage inexplicably emerged in his heart. His eyebrows twitched, and anger appeared on his face. He snorted and said, Sure Tion, do not seek the heavens nor the earth. My cultivation base is accumulated bit by myself. I created my own technique and used my body to go through all kinds of trials and tribulations to condense the supreme will of the Emperor. My realm, my will. Who can shackle it? Who dares to shackle it? It's mine. No one can take it away. Break. In the demon manor, on top of the 11th grade Black Lotus, there was an emperor that looked exactly like Sakura. On his body, there was a chain that tightly bound him. The Emperor Will's eyes were closed. At this moment, the entire Emperor will opened its eyes. The originally illusory Emperor will naturally burst forth with a supreme belief that looked down on the heavens. The illusory figure became real in an instant. A domineering will that couldn't be disobeyed burst forth from its body. It turned into streaks of purple gold light and rushed into the chains around it. Crack! In the instant that the illusion turned into reality, the burst of willpower seemed to increase by hundreds or even thousands of times. It rushed into the iron chain, and the iron chain that was originally restraining his willpower simply snapped and shattered inch by inch. They shattered on the spot. The shackles were broken. However, after breaking the shackles, the body that had become real became illusory again. The Emperor hadn't reached the stage where it could become real. Poison. Ian's eyes shot out a threatening light. He spat out a word coldly. In the void, colorful poisonous gas drifted out. The air was filled with a refreshing fragrance. It was as if the most beautiful things in the world had gathered together to form a colorful battle spear. Without any sound, it heavily bombarded the 5 elements millstone that was blocking its way. Wind. Countless strange winds rolled over and condensed into a green storm battle spear. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Following that, another 5 dazzling battle spears were formed. Each spear contained a different peerless power. Together with the thunder battle spear in front, a total of 8 battle spears bombarded the 5 elements millstone at the same time. Almost in an instant, the 5 elements millstone was shattered into pieces. Fate is supreme. Everything in the world is as I wish. The power of space turns into a barrier. Time brings distance. The 4 seasons bring reincarnation. Heaven and earth decay, but fate is immortal. Seeing the terrifying attacks coming one after another, Taishin immediately bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The iron pen in his hand absorbed the blood essence into the pen. The tip of the pen turned blood red, and he quickly scribbled on the great void treasure mirror with the blood essence. Suddenly, the mysterious fluctuations emitted from his body became stronger and stronger. In front of him, a silver-white space shield condensed out of thin air. In this shield, countless spaces were constantly disappearing. It was as if there were countless space faults inside. It contained an endless amount of chaotic spatial energy. There was also the power of time on it, so that anything that fell on it would become infinitely slow, and even move backward. Inside, there was the scene of the 4 seasons reincarnation, emitting the power of reincarnation. For a moment, the strongest barrier appeared in front of him. Rumble. The storm battle spears hit the shield. Immediately, the battle spears pierced into the shield, but they were swallowed by the countless space faults in the shield. It was as if they broke through countless faults in an instant, but there were more faults in front of them. The power of reincarnation and the power of time were constantly eroding the power contained in the battle spears. Rumble. This shield was extremely tough. When the 8 battle spears hit it at the same time, the shield trembled violently, but it did not break. It just caused the surrounding space to shake violently. Humph. Destiny scale, such a treasure, leave it to me. Di Shirtian focused his gaze and looked at the destiny scale in front of Tai Xian. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the destiny scale in front of him in a mysterious trajectory. Extreme Emperor Creation Palm, stealing the sky and changing the sun. Tai Xian's expression changed. He saw the destiny scale in front of him suddenly turn into a piece of rotten wood. At this moment, his state of mind completely changed. Even his pupils contracted violently. The destiny scale was the most important treasure he had, and it was related to the true meaning of destiny. It allowed him to directly feel the magic of destiny. Taking away the destiny scale was undoubtedly taking away his lifeblood. At this moment, he was no longer as indifferent as before. Without thinking, he waved his hand in the void. Destiny was like a knife, and destiny was like a net. 7 forms of destiny, heaven's wide net. Destiny was everywhere, and destiny existed everywhere. Under the cover of destiny, heaven's net was wide, and nothing could escape. As long as it was under the cover of destiny, nothing could escape. A huge black hand made a grabbing motion in the void. This grabbing motion contained traces of fate. Ripples appeared in the void, and the destiny scale, which had disappeared, reappeared. It looked like it was going to escape to Di Shirtian's location. However, it was caught out. Emperor, rumble. However, Sakura didn't have the slightest trace of regret. Instead, he calmly spoke again. As the sound of his voice faded, numerous emperors, sovereigns, and kings appeared in the air. Each of them had a different aura, but each of them gave off a tyrannical aura that could suppress the entire space. These emperors gathered together and formed a huge purple-gold battle spear. This was an emperor battle spear. On the battle spear, one could see countless figures of emperors. Every emperor was the strongest in the world. They were unparalleled and domineering. The battle spear formed by countless emperors was the most domineering battle spear in the world. In the surrounding space, just the pressure alone was enough to distort and collapse the space around them. Bang! The emperor battle spear crashed onto the shield. Immediately, the praises of countless emperors sounded from the battle spear. The domineering power of the emperors couldn't tolerate any disobedience. The will contained within was extremely compatible, and the most terrifying power burst out. The power of space, time, and reincarnation were all crushed by the battle spear. While Tai Xian was focused on the destiny scale, the spear pierced through the void. The spear broke through the barrier and instantly appeared in front of Tai Xian at an astonishing speed. It struck Tai Xian's chest like lightning. Puff! The battle spear pierced through Tai Xian's chest and came out from his back. The power contained in the battle spear immediately sent him flying backward. Extreme Imperial Creation Palm, stealing the sky and sun. Taking advantage of the situation, Di Shirtian grabbed forward again. Immediately, a stone appeared in the original position of the destiny scale. The destiny scale appeared in his hand, and he grabbed it. No, destiny scale. Tai Xian spat out large mouthfuls of blood in midair. However, the surrounding battle spears attacked the canyon at the same time. Go! Li Qinglian's expression changed. She quickly used the purple cloud sword array to wrap everyone and retreated into the canyon. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 943. Let's bring senior brother Tai Xian back first. Meng Yao took a deep look at Di Shirtian. Then, without hesitation, she agreed and quickly retreated into the Death Canyon. With just a glance, she could clearly feel that there was a murderous intent on him that didn't have the slightest bit of mercy for them. This murderous intent didn't have the slightest sign of mercy. His attack on Tai Xian was directly forcing him into a desperate situation. Also, Indra had unfathomable innate techniques. His words were like the law of nature. Even the laws of fate had no way to defend against him. Even a supreme treasure like the scales of fate was forcefully seized away. That stealing the sky and swapping the sun was too strange. If he stretched out his hand and grabbed the clothes away, he would probably have to find a hole to hide in. Oomph. Heartless brother D. Ding Dang glanced at D. Tion coquettishly and twitched her little nose. Her words had a hint of coquettishness, which made one's imagination run wild. She gently shook her snow-white arm. The bells on her arm gently collided with each other, making a pleasant ringing sound. She was like the most beautiful fairy in the world. She turned and went into the canyon. The wind-calming bells kept the strange wind in check. The sloppy monk only opened his blurred eyes and swept a few glances over Sakura's body, where the battle spear points kill demons and exterminate people. All battle spears, listen to my command. Hide and avoid. Anyone who leaves the canyon will be killed. Tion didn't have the slightest bit of pity for all the gazes. Their goal was not to kill Tai Xian, but to force them to step into the depths of the Death Canyon. If they were really forced into a corner, even if they could block them, the Zishao swordsman's battle strength would be enough to defeat them, and their side would still suffer considerable losses. Instead, he let them retreat into the canyon. Once they were trapped in the strange wind of death, if they wanted to walk out again, it wouldn't be as easy as they thought. According to Medusa, once they went deep into the canyon, the strange wind would blow and the sky would turn dark. It was impossible to distinguish the path. It was like a maze. If they were trapped for too long, even if they had the ability to reach the heavens, they would still be blown to death by the strange wind. Rumble. Emperor Battle Spear, 5 Elements Battle Spear, Poison Battle Spear, Storm Battle Spear, Thunder Battle Spear. The 9 battle spears flew into the air at the same time and appeared in the sky above the canyon. They arranged themselves according to the position of the 9 palaces, forming a huge killing formation that covered the entire canyon and stirred up the void. All the battle spears strangely merged with the void and disappeared. However, one could vaguely see the sharp edges of the battle spears pointing downwards. As long as any living being came out of the canyon, the battle spear would immediately launch a thunderous attack. Woo woo woo. Li Qinglian's group took Tai Xian and quickly retreated into the canyon. Immediately, sharp wind whistling sounds came from the countless caves around the canyon. Suddenly, a pitch-black wind of death blew out, forming a terrifying whirlwind. The scene in front of them changed abruptly. He could no longer see his surroundings clearly. The sky had turned dark. The terrifying strange wind could not be stopped at all. It swept towards a group of people crazily. The purple firmament sword formation immediately protected everyone under the formation. Battle swords slashed in all directions, and countless purple lightning bolts exploded continuously. The formation and the strange wind were in a stalemate. The hundreds of millions of whirlwinds around them could not move an inch. I want them to have a taste of being schemed against and falling into a trap. Even I can't see through this canyon. I don't believe that they can escape so easily. Quick, look at that destiny scale. It's a treasure personally refined by the ruler of destiny. It can directly connect to the river of destiny. If you can use it, it will be a great help to your strength. Dark glanced at the valley with a satisfied expression. At this moment, the canyon was enveloped by countless strange winds. It was so strong that one could not see his fingers in front of him. In the past, he had been schemed against. Now that he had forced the outstanding geniuses of the 10 great immortal sects into a trap, he naturally felt very different. However, his attention was immediately attracted by the purple gold destiny scale in Di Shirtian's hand. This was the ruler's treasure. Even though Dark had followed the Emperor of the Dead, who was a top expert of the ancient era, he still could not help but feel excited. On the destiny scale, there were traces of destiny. If one looked at each trace carefully, they would feel as if one's mind had suddenly sunk into a vast and boundless river. Intertwined together, they seemed abnormally profound. On top of it, there were 9 purple gold chips. The entire destiny scale contained a thick halo of destiny. However, It was as if a divine object was concealing itself. When it landed in Di Shurtian's hand, the divine light that had been emitting was suddenly retracted. There was no light at all, and it looked like an ordinary purple-gold destiny scale. He had subtly retracted all of his divine power. Di Shurtian activated the Imperial Extreme True Force, and pure Imperial Extreme True Force flowed through the demon veins into the destiny scale. However, when the Imperial Extreme True Force reached the destiny scale, it seemed to have hit a sturdy wall. There was no sign of it entering the scale at all. Clearly, this was because the destiny scale had a spirit. It had already recognized its master, and it was difficult to gain its recognition. Not even a trace of true force could enter. A divine object has a spirit, so it's unclean? In that case, I will give you this chance. You don't need to continue existing in the future. After a series of tests, Di Shurtian found that he could not control this treasure of destiny. However, he did not force it. He only glanced at the destiny scale and said calmly. He took out a jade box, placed the destiny scale in it, and set a seal. He sent it into his inner world. Since this destiny scale does not know how to appreciate kindness, Madman D, since this is the case, we'll go all out and send it in a myriad demon city. We'll use the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive to refine and absorb it. We'll steal the destiny laws within. This destiny scale is a supreme treasure. The laws within will definitely be enough to form the complete destiny spell in the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive. What is in your hands is the most real thing. Dark yelled fiercely. In the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive, there were 3,000 talismans of the Great Tao. Among them, there were a few that were the most powerful and the most difficult to perfect. Among them, fate, space-time, power, seal, destruction, life, death, soul, inner demon, and so on. Each of them could be said to be the most powerful law in the world. To perfect them was almost the most difficult. Whether it was the cultivation method, mystique, or law fragments related to them, they were all extremely difficult to find. For example, the Destiny spell in the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive only had less than 1,000th of a complete talisman. Moreover, it was unusually illusory. It was formed from the fragments of the laws of nature obtained after the death of a fate stealer in Demonic City. If the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive wanted to perfect it, it would be a long way to go. However, the Destiny scale in front of them was refined by the Master of Destiny, who had completely mastered the River of Destiny. It contained the most complete Destiny laws. In the eyes of others, this was a supreme treasure. However, in the eyes of the Imperial Extreme Jade Archive, this was an irreplaceable delicacy. Let's go. Di Shurtian glanced at the Death Canyon and realized that the canyon had been completely enveloped by the black wind. Even he felt incomparably fearful of the dense aura of death. If he fell deeply into it, he might really not be able to get out. However, he had no intention of going in personally to try. With an order, he immediately soared out of the canyon. Riding on the soaring sky throne, he returned to the original route. This time, he didn't really come to the Death Canyon to pass through here. He just wanted to trap Tai Xian and the others and force them in. He wanted to kick away all the people who were following behind him and were ready to plot against him at any time. He definitely wouldn't forget his real purpose in coming to the heaven-reaching tower. What happened just now was just the tip of the iceberg. The demon summoning banner was his real purpose. Of course, this scheme was also incomparably important to him. The demon summoning banner's significance was too important. It could be said to be the symbol of the demon clan. If there were really people following behind him, Di Shurtian wouldn't be able to truly go to the Tianpeng mystery realm with peace of mind. Otherwise, once the news was leaked, what awaited him would be countless experts swarming over. He was afraid that even the demon summoning banner would be difficult to protect. Now, after sending Tai Xian and the others into the Death Canyon, Di Shurtian also breathed a sigh of relief. When the matter was done, he would leave without hesitation. Immediately, The group soared into the sky and quickly headed to their destination under the guidance of Medusa. At this moment, in the fairy pool in the demon city, in a pavilion, beautiful maids stood in the surroundings. In the pavilion, dressed in a phoenix dress, she was graceful and noble, naturally revealing a unique temperament that belonged to the demon empress. Chun-Shi of the Heavenly Mother Empress was sitting in it. In front of her, dressed in silver-white armor and carrying a silver-white saber on his back, the demon guard commander Baiyu stood respectfully in front of her. Looking at the ground, he didn't dare to look at Chun-Shi casually. Chun-Shi's expression was slightly solemn. She looked at Baiyu and gave Baiyu an indescribable pressure. She said, "You're saying that Princess Chu Yun, who was imprisoned in the heavenly prison, has disappeared from the heavenly prison without any warning? With the guards in the heavenly prison and the blood massacre general guarding it, how could she have such great ability?" Empress, according to the jailer guarding the heavenly prison, at that time, Chu Yun was in the heavenly prison when her body suddenly emitted a purple light, and her entire person became extremely mysterious. It was as if she had suddenly changed into a different person. Then, she broke out of the heavenly prison and disappeared. This subordinate has already used a secret technique to check the jailer's memories. It is indeed true, Baiyu said with a cold expression. She turned into a purple light and left. Chun-Shi pondered in her heart. She also had a considerable impression of Chu Yun. She had once heard that she was a princess who had clamored to capture her husband as a spiritual pet. Previously, when she was captured in the endless void and imprisoned in the heavenly prison, nothing major had happened. She didn't expect such an accident to happen at this time. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 944. Raise if you have a ticket. If I'm not mistaken, Chu Yun should be the princess of the ancient imperial dynasty. The heavenly prison is guarded by the blood slaughterer general, and there are countless restrictions and seals. Even a peerless expert can't enter the heavenly prison without any warning. But you said that no one else appeared with Chu Yun. She just disappeared in a ray of purple light. Could it be that she's the reincarnation of an ancient expert? Chun-Shi thought to himself. There was no doubt that the heavenly prison was sturdy and powerful. The entire heavenly prison had the most restrictive spells in the entire demon city. Once one entered, one's cultivation base would be restricted. With Chu Yun's strength, even if she cultivated for hundreds or thousands of years, she wouldn't be able to leave the heavenly prison as she pleased. However, the most impossible thing had really happened. Chun-Shi couldn't help but guess. Now was the time when a great era had arrived. In the ancient era, every peerless expert was definitely not easy to deal with. Usually, they would set up a trap for themselves for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Even if they died, they could crawl out from somewhere. Don't underestimate even the most insignificant cultivators in the ancient era. It was very likely that they had already arranged for their reincarnation. Perhaps a certain prodigy of the present was actually a certain powerhouse of the ancient times. After thinking for a while, Chun-Shi didn't think too much about it. He temporarily put it down and remembered it in his heart. He looked at Baiyu and said, "Apart from Chu Yun, did anything happen to the other prisoners in the heavenly prison?" Reporting to the Empress, apart from Chu Yun, everything is normal. Baiyu replied without hesitation. Chun-Shi pondered for a while and immediately ordered, "Pass down my order. Immediately take the 9 holy maidens of the Thousand Moons sect and seal their cultivation. Send them to the Peach Garden and hand them over to the 100 Herb Fairy, by Su, to arrange the specific matters of the 9 women. Let them take care of the Peach Garden temporarily to prevent anything from happening in the heavenly prison." The 9 holy maidens of the Thousand Moons sect were still imprisoned in the heavenly prison. Although she didn't know the reason why something happened in the heavenly prison, she was a little worried about locking them up again. Yes, Baiwei immediately agreed. Sent a message to Tian Can and Huang Quan elders. Order them to enter the heavenly prison immediately and lead the blood slaughter generals to carefully investigate the heavenly prison, set up new restrictions, seals, and carve seal patterns. Set up the formation. The heavenly prison is the foundation of the Thousand Fiend City's laws. We absolutely cannot allow for the slightest flaw. Chun Shi ordered again. As you wish, Your Highness. Baiyu nodded solemnly. After that, Baiyu bowed and quickly left the Jade Lake. Chun Shi sat quietly in the pavilion. She seemed to be deep in thought. What had just happened seemed to have affected her. After a long while, she said to the people around her, "Pass down my order. I'll be hosting a banquet in the Jade Pool. I'll be inviting the Elven Queen, the Elven Princess, and Tian Xiao and Tian Ro from the Heavenly Human Tribe, to congratulate them for entering the Thousand Demon City. The three princesses of the Dragon race and the little princess of the Sky Fragrance race will attend the banquet together." As soon as she finished speaking, the maids outside the pavilion immediately agreed and quickly went out of the Jade Pool to send out the invitations. I hope you can get the demon summoning banner as soon as possible. Return to the Thousand Demon City and guard it. Chun Shi's eyes were deep as he looked into the void. Night slowly fell in the sky, dotted with countless stars. Strands of starlight continued to sprinkle down. It was as if her gaze could penetrate the void and see the figure stationed in her heart. There was no lack of worry in her eyes. She knew where he was going. The Heaven Gate Forbidden Land, the Tower of Babel, was one of the 9 most mysterious forbidden lands in the world. Especially the Tower of Babel. There were countless savage beasts in it. There were too many unknowns, and if one died in there, it would be really difficult to call for help. The Tower of Babel almost cut off the connection between the Thousand Demon City and the Thousand Demon City. In the tower, it was impossible to summon the Thousand Demon City. Once something happened, the Thousand Demon City could not be a powerful trump card and could not be a deterrent. The worry in her heart was not unreasonable. And on the purple gold continent, a piece of news was crazily spreading to the 10,000 worlds. Countless divine senses intertwined and collided in the void. The Thousand Hero Peak Assembly has come to an end. The Supreme Mystery Sect has announced to all the experts in the world that the Jade Tablet will be shared by all the races in the heavens. Anyone who has any ideas about the Jade Tablet will be the common enemy of all the races in the heavens. All the major forces have signed an agreement. They will enter the Demon Suppression Valley together and work together to explore the legacy. In the valley, any harvest will belong to the finder. No force can force it. Whoever finds it will have it. It is truly fair and just. It all depends on luck and opportunity. If there is a renege, all those who have signed the agreement will jointly eliminate the violator. The Thousand Hero Peak has agreed on a time. 3 days later, with the Jade Tablet and the secret map, we will enter the Demon Suppression Valley together. We will officially begin the first exploration of the Demon Suppression Valley. This news immediately spread crazily in the 10,000 worlds. At this moment, the thing that countless cultivators and experts were most concerned about was the Demon Suppression Valley, which contained the heart of the demon Ancestor. This was the legendary Sovereign Tao Foundation. It was also an ancient legacy. No matter what, it had an extraordinary attraction to cultivators. The meeting at the Thousand Hero Peak immediately decided the time to go to the Demon Suppression Valley. For a time, countless cultivators went to the Thousand Hero Peak, ready to enter the Demon Suppression Valley together when the time came. They wanted to see how their luck was and whether they could obtain the ancient treasure inside. Suddenly, the atmosphere on the purple gold continent became a little different. It seemed to be boiling but also calm. It was like a special aura before a storm. However, the Dragon Clan, the Star Clan, and other races that suddenly withdrew did not continue to participate. Instead, they restrained their clansmen calmly and quietly watched from the side. It was as if they were waiting for the final result of the trip to the Demon Suppression Valley. No matter what, at this moment, almost all the eyes in the world were gathered on the Demon Suppression Valley, while the news was spreading crazily on the purple gold continent. At this moment, in the heaven-reaching tower, Di Shirtian and the others had already appeared in front of a mysterious valley. Without Tai Xian and the others following, without any pressure in their hearts, they directly flew in the air and followed the route shown on the secret map. Their speed was not slow, and with the guidance of Medusa, they did not encounter any accidents. At this moment, they arrived in front of the valley in front of them. Look at this valley. It was a little different. There were narrow mountain streams all around, and in the south, there was a huge waterfall. Looking at the mountain stream and the waterfall, there should be a huge pool or lake in the valley. The air was filled with thick water vapor. At the edge of the valley, there was a kind of red fruit growing. The fruit emitted a tempting fragrance. These fruits grew on a strange tree with a snake-like body. On the ground in front of the valley, one could acutely see that there were rugged traces. It seemed that something had crawled over. In the sky above the valley, water vapor rose and rushed into the faint mist that permeated the air, emitting a dense rainbow color. Looking at it, it gave off a magical feeling. Entering the valley seemed to be connected in all directions, but there was still a main passage. This is the Thousand Snake Valley. Di Shirtian took out the secret map and placed it in front of him. Sure enough, on the map, there was a sign pointing to the strange valley in front of him. The unfilial descendant has finally arrived at the secret map left by the ancestor. I hope Wuya can see the ancestor with his own eyes. Shui Wuya's usually elegant face revealed a hint of excitement. That was a rhythm that came from the bloodline. The descendants would often have an indescribable, mysterious connection with the ancestor. Monster King, my mother lives in the valley. I will go in and ask my mother to come out. Medusa stood in front of the valley with a trace of hesitation on her face. However, she still turned around and looked at Di Shirtian. Let me say hello to your mother. Di Shirtian nodded and said, if it was any other place, he could enter without asking. But this was the place where Medusa's mother lived. Even if it was out of courtesy, he couldn't just enter directly. After all, respect was mutual. Moreover, there was a possibility that Medusa's mother was inside. Letting Medusa inform her first was the right thing to do. Please wait a moment. Medusa nodded slightly to Shui Shi, Huluzi, and the others, then turned around and walked into the valley. The valley was rugged, and in the blink of an eye, her figure had disappeared. 1 minute, 2 minutes. After 3 minutes, there was still no movement in the valley. Even Medusa didn't respond, as if she was a stone that had directly sunk into the sea. There was no response. This caused the group of monster kings waiting outside to have a slightly strange expression, and there was no lack of impatience. Monster King, Medusa has been in the valley for so long, but she hasn't responded at all. Could it be that something happened in the valley? Shui Wuya said hesitantly. Why don't we enter the valley? Bai Zian also said. After all, Medusa hasn't returned to Tong Tian Tower for a while. Maybe something really happened. Why don't we go in and meet her? Xie Sanyang said. There was also some suspicion. Wait a moment. Di Shirtian took a deep breath and stood quietly in front of the valley, looking into the valley. At the same time, a strange light flashed in his eyes. He automatically activated his innate ability, all-seeing eyes. He looked into the valley, but strangely, this valley seemed to be covered by a layer of mysterious power, and the all-seeing eyes couldn't see through it to see the scene in the valley. This valley is not simple. A thought suddenly appeared in his mind. However, he still didn't act rashly. Another 3 minutes passed. Di Shirtian's slightly closed eyes suddenly opened. A glint flashed across his eyes. There was decisiveness between his brows, and he said decisively, Let's go. Let's enter the valley. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. I support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 945. Di Shirtian was not surprised that the Snake Queen was the guardian of the Tian Peng mystic realm. When he heard Medusa say that the place where her mother lived was almost exactly the same as the location indicated on the map, he had already guessed in his heart. Previously, he was 70% certain, but now it had been completely confirmed. He only had one impression of the Snake Queen. Strong, very strong, extremely strong. Even if he was standing in front of her, no matter how Sakura looked at it, he couldn't sense what level her cultivation had reached. Hidden under her seemingly calm expression was an irresistible and terrifying power. Even though he looked like an ordinary person standing in front of him, Lin Fan could not help but feel a sense of relief. However, it was precisely this that made him even more fearful. This kind of fear was a sign that he could not control. An emperor had to have the consciousness to control everything around him. Wherever he stood, he would be able to prop up the world that he dominated. This was a subconscious action. Even the most powerful ancient giants had never given Di Shurtian such an uncontrollable feeling. However, he felt it from the Snake Queen. This was an incredible existence, an extremely terrifying expert. This was definitely an almighty being at the level of an unparalleled expert. May I ask the Snake Empress if my subordinates who came with me? Indra's expression was calm as he looked at the Snake Empress and asked. Although he did not finish his sentence, the meaning of his words could be clearly understood. Don't worry, your subordinates are resting in the valley right now. The Snake Queen looked at him and said, I want to remind you that if you enter the Tian Peng mystic realm without the recognition of the demon summoning banner, you will never be able to leave the mystic realm. It is up to you to decide whether you want to go or not. After the Snake Queen finished speaking, she did not say anything else and just waited calmly. One lives, one dies. Di Shurtian's gaze became somewhat deep, but he could understand the meaning behind it. The demon summoning banner in the Tian Peng mystic realm was the demon race's #1 treasure. It was related to the demon race's destiny. If he left without the recognition of the demon summoning banner, it would immediately attract the attention of countless wolves if news leaked. It was a great danger to the monster summoning banner. I'll have to trouble you to send me into the secret territory. Sakura took a deep breath and made his decision without the slightest hesitation. Indecisiveness will lead to chaos. All right. The Snake Queen looked at him deeply and nodded. I wish you good luck. Only the demon race can enter the Tian Peng mystic realm. I can't enter and can't help you. After saying that, he waved his hand, and an ancient golden door appeared before him. Inside the door, ripples spread out like water waves. Pata! Di Shurtian then walked into the golden door. As soon as he entered, a strange fluctuation spread out from the door, enveloping his entire body. It was as if he was shuttling through countless dimensions at high speed. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. Seeing that Di Shurtian had already entered the Tian Peng mystic realm, the Snake Queen shook her head slightly and muttered to herself. This Di Shurtian is indeed a hero of the demon race since ancient times. He was just a black tiger, but he was able to cut through the thorns and reach his current heaven-defying combat strength. Even if the 3 lists and 1 chart were to be reopened, he would still be the top genius of the generation on the list. However, the Tian Peng mystic realm was not as easy to pass as one imagined. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing when I sent my daughter there. I hope that the tomb of the god of sin can temporarily hide the secret of the southern barbarian. He shook his head. He glanced at the golden door. He closed his eyes and stood quietly outside. He waited silently. At this moment, on the purple gold land, in a mountain range. In the mountain range, there were towering peaks. The atmosphere of each peak was different. There were more than 1,000 peaks, as if they were heroes with different atmospheres. When gathered together, there was a different aura, and in the middle, there was the largest peak. That peak was like a hero among heroes, standing proudly. Its aura suppressed the entire mountain range. And on these peaks, at this moment, countless cultivators and experts had gathered, making it extremely lively. Not far from the 1,000 peaks, on an inconspicuous mountain peak, the know-it-all and the Demon King were standing on it. They each held a jar of wine and looked at the peaks. What a bunch of idiots who don't know what death is. These days, they're even rushing to die. The know-it-all smacked his lips and drank a few mouthfuls of spirit wine. He shook his head and said, These people don't even think about what kind of place the Demon Suppression Valley is. It was one of the most intense battlefields in ancient times. Even the ruler personally sealed the heart of the demon Ancestor. If it was so easy to get, why would it be kept until now? It's just a pity for the Wine God clan. Back then, I even freeloaded wine from their clan. I've also been friends with the Wine God for many years. I didn't expect things to have changed. He smiled with a hint of melancholy and sighed. If it weren't for the D-Brat, I wouldn't have known that so many demon gods had infiltrated the demon god continent. Demon King, you're supervising the myriad worlds. How you plan to deal with the demon gods? The know-it-all asked. He looked at the Demon King with interest. His heart had turned cold towards the demon gods. What happened back then was an unresolvable knot for any demon powerhouse, an unforgettable pain. Demon gods? Now, this son of a bitch was foolishly standing in front of them. The three rulers have long sensed it, but the ruler is setting up a big plan. When the three lists and one chart reopen, there will be a conclusion. The Demon King coldly glanced at the Thousand Peaks and said indifferently, "As for now, since they want to make a fuss, let them make a fuss for a while, and let the humans have a taste of the demon gods." TSK, TSK. The know-it-all looked at the Demon King playfully. As the supervisor, he had to stabilize the myriad worlds. Now, there were demon gods gathered in the Demon Suppression Valley. Logically speaking, he should have announced it to the myriad worlds. His current actions were clearly dereliction of duty. Aren't you afraid that the ruler will blame you? The Demon King waved his sleeve, turned, and left. I have an illness. My eyes and ears. The know-it-all smiled and shook his head. He looked in the direction of the sky-split tower and muttered to himself. That guy Tion Peng actually brought the demon summoning banner in the sky-split tower. I hope the Emperor Kid can get his hands on it soon. The three lists and one chart will reopen, and the world will be in chaos. However, we demons will take advantage of the chaos to rise. I hope he really does have that kind of luck. After standing there for a long time, his figure disappeared in an instant. Meanwhile, in the sky-split tower, in the Tion Peng mystic realm, after Di Shirtian entered the golden door, he was immediately enveloped by a strange power and transported to a mysterious area. The teleportation didn't last for too long. In the blink of an eye, the mysterious power around him dissipated, and the scenery in front of him changed. This is the primordial starry sky? Di Shirtian looked around and quickly scanned his surroundings. That one glance was enough to take in everything around him. However, the environment around him still surprised him. All around him were dazzling stars. Each star was incomparably huge. They were scattered throughout the vast area, forming a boundless starry space. At a glance, one could see countless stars. They were so densely packed that it was difficult to estimate. Clearly, if he was not mistaken, this was the most realistic astral space. He could clearly sense the power of the stars around him. It was unusually dense. He circulated his cultivation technique and absorbed it into his body, making him feel very comfortable. Crazy Emperor, the aura here is very similar to the primordial starry sky. No, it really is the same aura as the primordial starry sky. However, that doesn't seem right. The primordial starry sky's aura should have completely changed because of the primordial starry sky's aura. This place is very strange. Nether blinked and looked around seriously. He felt a very familiar aura in the stars. Huh. Look, isn't that the starry sky battlefield formed by countless almighty demonkin experts in the primordial starry sky? Wasn't the starry sky battlefield destroyed? Why is it still here? Suddenly, Dark's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Di Shirtian looked over. Within the astral space, there was an incomparably large continent. Although it was called a continent, it was actually made up of countless stars gathered together to form a battlefield. One could clearly see that the stars were fusing together and emitting dazzling starlight. In the starry sky, this battlefield was the most dazzling star. This is the starry sky battlefield of the primordial starry sky? I've heard of it before. When Tion saw that vast continent, traces of radiance flashed across his eyes. However, he also knew from various sources that the Starry Sky battlefield had been completely destroyed in the Great Battle. Later, the fragments were refined into 9 stars by the Starry Sky race, forming the powerful 9 stars pearl. Hiss! Suddenly, Dark sucked in a breath of cold air again and looked to the other side. A pitch-black continent also appeared in the Starry Sky battlefield. This continent was not the slightest bit smaller than the star continent. However, it was not formed by the accumulation of stars. Instead, it was formed by the accumulation of ferocious demon god skeletons. Among those skeletons, there were demonic beasts and various demon gods. Among them, there were skeletons tens of thousands of feet tall. When they were alive, they were all powerful demon gods. The skeletons were so huge that they were uncountable. The entire Starry Sky battlefield was filled with a ferocious and terrifying aura. Demon Burial Battle Island. This is the Demon Burial Battle Island of the Demon God continent. It not only buries demon gods, but also billions of lives. The aura alone can kill countless cultivators. Didn't this Starry Sky battlefield island collapse together with the Starry Sky battlefield island? Why is it here? No, this is very wrong. Is this an illusion? No, this is not an illusion. Did we go back to the primordial Starry Sky battlefield? Nether's mind was already a little confused by the things in front of him. He found it hard to accept the scene in front of him. This was something that he had experienced in the past. He was very sure that this was definitely not an illusion. No matter how realistic an illusion was, it would not be able to achieve the scene in front of him. Time travel? Could it be time travel? To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 946. It's the end of the month. The 10,000 demons have entered a crucial part of the plot. Reality. Underworld was quite sure that what it was seeing and feeling now was definitely not an illusion. It was real. The power of the stars, the ancient aura, and even the murderous aura from the void all evoked its ancient memories. If it was an illusion, it would definitely not be so real. Although there was a saying that when the real turned into the fake, the real turned into the fake, and when the fake turned into the fake turned into the real. The ultimate Emperor mask in Shurkin's hand had 2 superpowers. One was real, and the other was illusory. This was the extreme performance of real and fake. But even so, it still could not be said to be real. Fake was fake. There was still a slight difference between real and fake. But what was in front of it was completely different. Delusion breaker. Tion suppressed the shock in his heart. There was no panic on his face. Between his brows, the heavenly punishment divine eye opened. In the divine eye, there was a flash of purple-gold divine light. It coldly scanned the surrounding starry sky. The power of Delusion Breaker spurted out. Under the divine eye, everything that was seen would be completely exposed. As long as it was an illusion, there was no chance of escape under the Delusion Breaker eye. However, what shocked him was that under the divine eye, every star around him was the most real. Every wisp of star power was also the most real. There was not a trace of falsehood. What he was in wasn't illusion. It was all real. Lunatic D, if I'm not wrong, we have returned to the ancient times. And we have returned to the most intense moment of the battle between the purple gold continent and the demon god continent. The astral battle island and the demon burial battle island in front of us should be the biggest battle of the ancient times. The great battle of heaven. The shock in Underworld's eyes slowly disappeared. His eyes shone. The demon god diagram, the blood altar, the 9 ancient lamps, the demon summoning banner, the Ancestor summoning, and the great battle of heaven. There was a hint of solemnity in his voice. It was as if he was shouting from the underworld. In the ancient times, the great battle of heaven had wiped out the elites of the demon clan. A large number of demon gods had fallen. The blood of billions of living beings dyed the blue sky. After the battle, even the sky had collapsed. That was a battle to bury the heavens. After confirming that the world around him was not an illusion, Ming was certain that he was in the ancient times. Moreover, he was in the sky-toppling battlefield of the past. In his memories, the demon gods and the monster race had fallen like raindrops in the battle back then. The battle was so fierce that even the heavens and earth were crying. A rain of blood fell. I'm really dreaming of ancient times. Tian Peng Mystic Realm? Did something unexpected happen during the teleportation, or is this the true mystery of the Tian Peng Mystery Realm? Disher Ian's eyes were abnormally deep. He quickly thought about it in his mind. To be able to directly send him back to the ancient times, this already involved the domain of time and space. This was the mutual domain of time and space. It was reversing the flow of time. This was the river of time and space, turning back to the ancient times. Disher Tian was certain that the ability to reverse space-time was something that even a sovereign would find difficult to control. Unless a sovereign of time was born in the world and joined forces with a sovereign of space, there would be such a heaven-defying ability. If the space-time was unintentionally distorted and caused him to deviate from space-time and return to the ancient times, it would be a creation created by the escape of heaven and earth. However, if it was done intentionally, it would be extremely terrifying. Tian Peng Demon Venerable had the ability to reverse space-time. He would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Lunatic D, you have returned to the primordial era in the middle of a great war like this. You must be very careful. If you die here, you will truly be dead. Dark said with a serious expression. Even monster gods have fallen on the battlefield in the past. The battle was extremely tragic. Countless ancient heavenly demons had perished. Although your battle strength is heaven-defying, you still have to be careful on the battlefield. Since the ancient times, he knew very well how terrifying the great battle of heaven was. Clang! It was unknown when Sakura's right hand had landed on Tiger Soul's slender hilt. With a twist of his wrist, Tiger Soul was instantly unsheathed with a deep tiger roar. The green bead on Tiger Soul had already turned blood red. Waves of Tiger Soul's power continuously drilled into the battle saber, causing Tiger Soul to upgrade to a high-grade Earth-rank demon weapon. At every moment, the aura emitted by the Tiger Soul continued to grow stronger. Holding Tiger Soul in his right hand, he slowly brushed his left hand across the saber. An indomitable aura surged from his body, forming an unyielding battle intent. His battle intent was unprecedentedly high. The gaze in his eyes made it impossible for others to look at him directly. Hide? Why should I hide? In an instant, an indescribable aura exuded from Di Shirtian's body. He said resolutely, Di Shirtian, was born tens of thousands of years ago. I have always regretted that I was not fortunate enough to join hands with my ancestors to reverse the great battle of heaven. I have never had the chance to see the heroic spirits of the demon race in person. Since I have the chance now, I, Disher Tian, will not shirk away from this battle. Kacha. After he finished speaking, he looked at Tiger Soul in his hand. With a twist of his wrist, Tiger Soul returned to its scabbard, allowing it to continue upgrading to Earth Tier superior grade. Immediately after, his body swayed, and a purple-gold divine light appeared under his feet. Within this divine light, there seemed to be countless battle tigers gathered and countless divine dragons danced. Countless emperors were describing the emperor's heart technique. It exuded the noble aura of an emperor. It could suppress all directions. The nearby stars seemed to be affected by the pressure, and their movements were a little shaky. This was the Emperor's divine light, formed by gathering Emperor's purple chi. Whoosh! With a flash of divine light, Di Shirtian was enveloped in the Emperor's divine light. He quickly flew toward the astral battle island where the demon race was stationed. In his heart, he was a little excited. In the future, he would be the demon emperor of the world. In this ancient great battle of heaven, he was a demon race warrior who witnessed and participated in the glorious history of the demon race. From now on, it's not that I admire history, it's that I am history. Astral Battle Island, stop. The Emperor's divine light was abnormally fast. Although there was a saying that Mount Hope was extremely fast, the astral space was extremely vast. Each star was millions of miles apart. Although he could see the astral battle island, it was still abnormally far away. However, under the Emperor's divine light, his speed was extremely fast. In just 2 hours, he had already arrived at the astral battle island. At a glance, this astral battle island was indeed made up of countless stars gathered together. In each star, there were astral crystals that could continuously emit vast amounts of astral energy. Now that they had gathered together, the astral energy on the entire astral battle island was so dense that it was almost like liquid. Every breath was absorbing a large amount of astral energy. In such an illusion, even if one didn't cultivate, one's cultivation base could rapidly increase. However, in the sky above the astral battle island, there were strange astral battle flags that were constantly devouring astral energy. On the astral battle island, there were demon race warriors wearing powerful battle armors and exuding an austere aura. They stood around like statues. Most of the demon race warriors were gathered in the barracks on the astral battle island. Although the demon race hadn't undergone unified training before, now they were obviously cooperating with each other. Every single one of them was a demon race warrior. The demon chi that emanated from their bodies could be clearly felt. Even the weakest demon race warrior had the battle strength of an ancient demon king. Most of them had the battle strength of an ancient demon saint. There was also a large number of ancient celestial demons. The ancient era was the most glorious era. Experts emerged in large numbers. With a rough estimation, each barracks had at least 30 million demon race warriors. There were 5 barracks like this, which added up to hundreds of millions of demon race warriors. In the ancient era, our demon race was so powerful. Although Di Shurtian had read about it in ancient books, he still felt a strong sense of pride when he saw in real life. However, he could also guess that these were probably all the elites of the demon race. No wonder the entire demon race fell into a trough when they were exhausted. The damage to their vitality was not just a little. In response to the demon gathering order, I have come to the astral battle island to fight the fiend celestials to the death. Indra didn't put on any airs as he listened to the 2 demon clan warriors who had the battle prowess of an ancient demon saint. He merely released his demon chi and the aura of an ancient heavenly demon and slightly released his demon chi. Ming said, with Ming around, he naturally knew that the demon race didn't force any of their clansmen to enter the battlefield. They only issued the demon gathering order, and it was up to them to resist the fiend celestials' invasion. Those who were willing could head to the astral battle island. So, it's a senior from our clan. How should I address you? A demon race warrior's expression relaxed slightly as he continued to ask. Di Shurtian, Senior, please enter the astral battle island. Senior is an ancient celestial demon and is not arranged to enter the barracks. You are only required to fight the fiend celestials. There are trading places on the astral battle island that belong to your level. Many seniors are present. Senior D, would you like to rest first or head to the trading place? After entering the astral battle island, a Fox Clan woman immediately came forward and spoke respectfully. A trading place that belongs to the ancient celestial demon level? Di Shurtian's eyes narrowed when he heard that. This kind of trade fair was definitely one of the best in the world. The things that were valued by the ancient celestial demons were definitely not ordinary treasures. In the past, he had never participated in such a top-notch trade fair. He could imagine that the items inside must be priceless. The city here was an ancient city refined with countless spiritual materials. Yes, lead the way. Sakura almost didn't have the slightest hesitation as he nodded right away. He knew that the trade fair held at this time was especially important. Perhaps obtaining something at the trade fair could immediately increase one's battle strength, or even achieve a breakthrough. Furthermore, at the trade fair, every single one of them was a well-known expert. Befriending them would bring him great benefits. Lunatic D, This trade fair must not be missed. There are many things inside that might be of great use. If there is a celestial demon level trade fair, there must be a demon saint level trade fair and a demon god level trade fair as well. If you can enter a demon god level trade fair, your gains will definitely be greater. Ming licked his lips excitedly and exclaimed, "If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading." Chapter 947. Please vote. Brothers, support me. In this kind of trade fair that was close to the big battle, both parties would take out their most precious things to trade. After all, any treasure that could not immediately increase one's combat strength was of little value. No one could guarantee that they could survive to the end in a battle with the demon gods. The purpose of holding trade fairs was to make each other's combat strength stronger. In the upcoming fierce battle, they could kill the demon gods more fiercely and strengthen their life-saving foundation. Therefore, under such pressure, they would often take out their most precious treasures. Only in this kind of trade could the gains be maximized. Of course, Di Shirtion did not think that such a trade fair was only held between ancient heavenly demons. He was sure that there must be trade fairs for demon saints or even demon gods in other places. The trade fairs entered at different levels were also different. After all, power determined the level. Under the lead of the Fox clan maid, they walked into the battle island. Along the way, they could clearly see that there were demon clan warriors almost everywhere. He was trying his best to absorb the power of the stars around him. He was seizing every moment to improve his cultivation base and cultivation base. They were nervously making a last effort for the upcoming battle. Looking at the war island, there were mountains of stars standing tall. There were all kinds of stars growing on them. The power of the stars floated and intertwined, forming all kinds of illusions, which had a strange charm. Although the war island was refined for fighting with the demon gods, there were still some simple buildings. On the war island, countless demon clan members gathered together, looking extremely lively. However, they were not in the mood to chat. A kind of oppressive aura could be smelled in the air. This was the atmosphere before the big battle, like the calm before the storm. They are indeed the elites of the demon clan. Compared to ancient times, the overall strength of the demon clan gathered in the demon city is not at the same level at all. Di Shirtion looked at the demon clan on the war island. He secretly compared them with the demon clan in the demon city. He felt that the two were not on the same level at all. Walking on the war island, the weakest demon clan member was an elite at the peak of the ancient demon king level. Most of them were fiend saints. On War Island, there were several billion of these fiend race experts. In his heart, he felt that there was still a long way to go. Senior D, we've arrived. Not long after, they arrived at the center of the island and appeared in front of a huge palace. This palace occupied an extremely large area and was formed by numerous palaces gathered together. The white fox maidservant introduced. This is called the Imperial Palace. It's a place for senior Skyfae realm experts to reside in. Mr. D, you also have an independent hall. The trade fair is also held inside. It will be done once a day. You came at the right time. Today's trade fair will begin soon. This maidservant was exceptionally obedient and quick-witted, but she was naturally charming. Then, he introduced them to him in detail. Take me directly to the trade fair. Di Shirtion didn't want to miss such a top-level trade fair, so he immediately nodded and said directly, "Okay, please come with me." The maidservant didn't hesitate and led the way into the hall. The guards at the door didn't stop them and just bowed to Di Shirtion respectfully. After entering the palace, they passed through several halls in succession. Finally, they arrived in front of the most majestic hall. They didn't stop and walk straight in. Swish, swish, swish. The moment Di Shirtion stepped in, many blade-like gazes landed on his face like lightning. In these gazes, there was a trace of majestic, oppressive force. Vaguely, there were supreme wills that were testing him. Rumble. Di Shirtion didn't even think about it. The Emperor's will that had condensed into an illusory form in his body instantly broke out of his body. In an instant, it emitted a domineering pressure. The wills contained in those gazes were all withdrawn after sensing it. Immediately, Di Shirtion also withdrew his wills. Just now, it was just a test of his qualifications to enter. What a powerful will. Our Beast clan has another Sky Fae expert. How should I address you, brother? I am a Tom Tion Ape King. You can call me the Know-It-All. In the hall, there was a huge rectangular jade table. Around it, there were more than a dozen figures sitting. Every single one of the figures contained a terrifying amount of power within their bodies. On the surface, they all looked like ordinary people. At this moment, a voice sounded. Di Shirtion looked over. The one who spoke was a humanoid ape. His body was covered in golden monkey fur. He wore a golden armor and a purple gold crown on his head. Although there was fur on his face, he looked like a human. From head to toe, he exuded a wild and unruly aura. When he saw Di Shirtion enter, he smiled and greeted him. Di Shirtion noticed that there were a few pairs of small ears behind his ears. He is the Know-It-All? Six-ear macaque? One of the four chaotic apes? Could it be that he is the same person as the Know-It-All of the later generations? Sakura heard his introduction and his heart unconsciously fluctuated rapidly. He immediately thought of the Know-It-All who had protected him in secret. He wondered if they were the same person. No need to guess, Lunatic D. The old man you saw before is this guy. He's already at the peak of the ancient Sky Fae level. If he can survive the Great War, he must have broken through and become an ancient demon god. When Dark saw this, he immediately said with certainty. His eyes quickly scanned the hall, and he was secretly surprised. He said, "My goodness, everyone here is the top fighting force of the ancient demon clan. Lunatic D, look, that man with fiery golden hair is an expert of the Golden Crows. He's called the Sun War God, Lu Shiri. He's also at the peak of the ancient Sky Fae level. The one with snow-white hair is Venerable Frigid Wind of the Frigid Seeping tribe. And that one is Goddess Featherflight Chinyu of the Blue Phoenix tribe." Ming had the experience of the past. Towards each and every one of the experts in front of him, he quickly explained to Di Shirtion as though he was very familiar with them. Every single one of them, if spoken of in the later generations, was a ferocious god that intimidated all parties. Every one of them was a ferocious existence. Look, that's the great punk demon Venerable. I remember that he's still at the peak of the ancient Sky Fae level. He only broke through to become a peerless expert during the Great War. As for the introduction of Dark, Sakura meticulously memorized all of it. At this moment, it actually introduced the other great rock demon Venerable. Immediately, his mind was shaken. He was very sensitive to this name. This was the ferocious god who established the Tian Peng realm and took away the monster summoning banner. His arrival in the ancient era was probably because of him. It was hard not to pay attention to him. He hurriedly looked over. He saw an extremely young man sitting on one of the seats above. His body naturally exuded traces of intimidating pressure and hostility. More than that, there was a kind of arrogance that came from his bones. This was a kind of natural disposition that one was born with. He was handsome and refined. He wore a gold-trimmed brocade robe and a golden crown on his head. His body was boundlessly sharp. He looked like thousands of unsheathed swords. He was deeply imprinted in the depths of one's memory. What a great punk demon Venerable. Di Shirtion's eyes lit up. It wasn't that he hadn't seen arrogant people before. Back then, Ao-chan was also an exceptionally arrogant person. However, his arrogance was only a kind of arrogance that looked down on everything. Compared to the great rock demon Venerable, it was only an appearance, but it lacked a kind of spirit. Those who saw Ao-chan would only feel disgust. As for the great punk demon Venerable's arrogance, it was as if he was born with it. It felt as if it was only natural. Arrogance also needed to be differentiated by people. Di Shirtion glanced around the hall without any signs of stage fright. He saw that there were a total of 18 seats at the long table in the hall. There were 3 empty seats now. Looking at the heavenly demons in the hall, he did not fawn over them. He just calmly said 3 words as an introduction. Then he sat down on the 3 empty thrones. Yes. This dignified and magnanimous action immediately made all the heavenly demons in the hall nod in unison. It was a kind of acknowledgement of D. Shurtion, the newcomer. They did not make things difficult for him. After all, those who came to the Star Battle Island were all brave warriors who were ready to die in the battle. Time passed by slowly. In the end, no other heavenly demons came in. After a few minutes had passed, Yi Zichen suddenly opened his mouth. Suddenly, an old man sitting on the left opened his eyes. His turbid old eyes flashed with a faint shrewdness. His old body contained a vast power that could overturn heaven and earth. With a smile on his face, he seemed to be very amiable. He said, "It's almost time. It seems that there won't be any other demon friends coming to the trade fair today. Why don't we start now?" Immediately, all the heavenly demons opened their eyes. Good, good. I have no objections. The demons all expressed their opinions. Obviously, it was just a formality. Lunatic D, this is an expert of the Fox clan called the Wise Fox Demon Venerable. He is extremely good at communication, scheming, and setting up. Moreover, his schemes are often ruthless. In that case, this old man will throw a brick to attract the jade. The Wise Fox Demon Venerable smiled gently. With a flash of light in his hand, 5 psychic jade boxes appeared on the jade table in front of him. As soon as the jade boxes appeared, all eyes in the hall immediately focused on them. The things that could be brought here were definitely not ordinary. Crack! With a few soft sounds, the 5 jade boxes were opened one by one. Bursts of strange light emitted from the jade boxes, and the treasures inside fell into the eyes of all the demons. D. Shurtion did not immediately look at the treasures in the jade boxes. Instead, he looked at the other demon venerables. He could clearly see that the pupils of a few demon venerables slightly shrank when they saw the items in the jade boxes. Although it was not easy to detect, it still could not escape his eyes. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com and read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.